My stepdad looked me in the eye and told me I didn't exist to him or my mother anymore, right before he spent my $75,000 college fund on his golden child son. 4 years later, I stood in the exact same kitchen, handed him a 30-day eviction notice for the $650,000 house he thought he owned, and watched his marriage disintegrate in under 90 seconds. Original post: from now on, you don't exist to me or your mother. My stepfather, Vance, said those exact words on his very first night living in my house. I was 15 years old, the rain was beating against the kitchen window, a classic Seattle downpour, and I looked straight past him to my mom, waiting for her to tell him to get out. I waited for the maternal instinct I thought she possessed to kick in. Instead, she wouldn't even meet my eyes. She stared at her coffee mug and said, "Vance and I talked, Liam. We need to put all our energy into his son, into Trent. He's had a very hard time with his parents' divorce." "What does that even mean?" I asked, my voice cracking in a way I hated. "He's been through a divorce? My dad has been dead for 11 months. I'm the one who just buried a parent. I need my mother." "You're tough," she whispered, still not looking at me. "You're independent. You've always been the strong one, Liam. Trent is sensitive. He needs us." Vance stepped forward, physically blocking my view of her. "So, from now on, you're on your own. That means you don't come to us for money, for rides, for help with school, nothing. You bring us a problem, the answer is no." "Save your breath. You can't be serious," I scoffed, though my stomach was in freefall. "Do I look like I'm joking?" Vance didn't blink. "Mom, he's telling you that you're not allowed to be my mother anymore." I was screaming now, loud enough to rattle the window panes over the sink. She sighed. It was that specific, heavy sigh, the one that meant I was being difficult. "That's not what he's saying, Liam." "Then what is he saying? What else could that possibly mean?" "Don't be dramatic." Vance rolled his eyes. I wanted to spit in his face. "You don't get to move into my father's house and throw me out with the trash." I snarled. "I'm her son. Her actual son." Vance's face went dead cold. "And I'm her husband. Which means what I say goes under this roof. You can accept that. Or you can make the next 4 years of your life very, very hard on yourself." He said it like a threat. He meant it like a promise. I looked at my mother one last time, begging her without saying a single word. She just took a sip of her coffee. "Fine," I said, my voice dropping to a dead whisper. "I don't need any of you anyway." Vance smiled, a sickening, victorious smirk. Good boy. He didn't know my dad had left me a $75,000 college fund. The day I turned 19, I was walking out that door and never looking back. I just had to survive until then. For 2 weeks, I pretended Vance didn't exist. He wasn't my family. He wasn't permanent. He was just a guy who would eventually leave the same way he came in. I kept my head down, did my homework, and waited for my mother to wake up and see the monster she had married. That delusion lasted exactly 14 days. I came home from school on a Tuesday and found my bedroom door standing wide open. I could hear Trent inside, laughing at a video on his phone. I took the stairs 3 at a time and stopped dead in the doorway. My room was empty. Completely, utterly empty. The heavy oak loft bed my dad and I built over 3 weekends was gone. My desk was gone. My bookshelves, the ones he had cut, sanded, and stained the color of dark honey, were gone. Trent was standing in the middle of the bare floor, holding his phone out, filming himself doing a slow 360-degree turn. And this is going to be the new training room. Dad's putting in rubber flooring and a full mirror wall, and I'm getting a synthetic ice shooting pad right here. He saw me in the doorway and his face opened into a smug grin. "Oh, hey, Liam. You're home early. Where's my stuff?" I asked, my vision tunneling. "Garage, I think. Dad wanted it completely cleared before the contractors come tomorrow." "What contractors?" "The flooring guys. They're pulling all this out." Trent knocked on the wall with his knuckles. "And that ugly wood thing by the door is coming out, too. The trim. It's all scratched up. Dad says it looks like garbage." Something went absolutely silent inside my chest. "The trim," I repeated, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. "Yeah. The doorframe. It's got dents and pencil marks all over it. It's disgusting. Honestly. We're putting in clean white." I looked at the doorframe. My dad used to make me stand against it, barefoot, on the morning of my birthday every single year. He'd lay a heavy hardcover book flat on my head, slide it down until it touched my scalp, take the carpenter's pencil from behind his ear, and draw a thick line. He'd write the date beside it in his terrible, messy handwriting. There were 15 lines on that piece of pine. The last one was from the birthday right before the cancer ate him alive. He drew it, stepped back, wiped a smudge of dirt off his cheek, and said, "You're going to pass me, kid. Give it 2 years." He never got those 2 years. And now Trent was calling it garbage. He didn't even know what he was looking at. That was somehow the worst part. He genuinely could not tell the difference between a sacred record of a boy growing up and a scuffed piece of cheap wood. I shoved past him, nearly knocking him into the drywall, and sprinted down the stairs. Vance was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open, casually scrolling through pictures of gym flooring. "You're gutting my room," I said, my fists clenched so hard my fingernails were cutting into my palms. He didn't even look up. "Trent's room now. He needs the space to train. He can set it up however he wants. You can't do that. You don't have the right." "Liam." Vance finally raised his eyes, wearing that patient, exhausted expression he used every time he was about to say something unforgivable. "Your father is dead. That trim is a piece of pine, those marks are just graphite. At some point, you have to stop using a dead man as an excuse to make everyone else's life difficult." I stopped breathing. "I have been patient," Vance continued, closing his laptop. "I have given you room to grieve, but I am done watching you hold this house hostage because you can't accept that a man who is never coming back is never coming back." I stared at him. He was sitting in my father's kitchen, at a table my father built, in a house my father framed with his own 2 hands, telling me I was holding it hostage by missing him. "I want to talk to my mom," I choked out. "Your mother agreed to all of it. Why do you think we waited until she was at work?" He smiled, and it was a terrifying, reptilian smile. "She knew you would throw a massive fit, and she didn't want to sit through it. She's exhausted, Liam. You exhaust her. Every single time she starts to feel like a person again, you find a way to drag her back into the dark. You want to know what she told me last night?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to know, but I was physically incapable of leaving the room. "She said marrying me was the first time she's felt like herself since he died. She said this family, me and Trent, this life we're building, is the only thing getting her out of bed in the morning." He tilted his head, watching my face shatter. "So, when you fight it, you're not hurting me. You're hurting her. You are the only thing standing between your mother and happiness." The words landed like a physical blow to the ribs because I couldn't tell if he was lying. I couldn't tell if she had actually said it, or if he had engineered the perfect psychological knife just to watch it slide into my chest. Not knowing was worse than either answer. I wanted to put his laptop through the kitchen window. I wanted to hurt him the exact amount he was hurting me. But I didn't. Because that was the entire point. He wanted me to detonate, he wanted me to throw a punch so he could point at the crater, call the police, and tell my mother how unstable and dangerous I was. He wanted an excuse to kick me out permanently. So, I swallowed it. I swallowed all of it. The rage, the grief, the bile. I turned around, walked out to the garage, and found my entire life stacked in cheap cardboard boxes on the freezing concrete, like it was already on its way to the landfill. That night, I lay on a lumpy mattress in the tiny guest room, staring at stark white walls in a space half the size of the one they took from me. And I made myself a promise. I would survive this. I would become a ghost in my own home. I would get out, and I would take every single thing my father left me. Starting with the $75,000 college fund he built dollar by dollar for 18 years. The next 3 years taught me how to vanish. I was physically present, eating their leftover food, sleeping in their house, taking up the absolute minimum amount of space they allowed, but the part of me that felt things went somewhere deep and quiet where they couldn't touch it. I worked 2 jobs. I held a 4 gigapascals. I spoke to Vance and Trent in as few words as grammatically possible. I stopped asking my mother for anything because I already knew the answer was no, and I watched Trent become exactly what 3 years of being endlessly pampered produces. A 19-year-old who could not run a washing machine, could not boil pasta without calling his dad, and could not hold a minimum wage job longer than a month. He got physically anxious if he had to call and order a pizza. Vance had built a son who could not survive a single day without someone propping him up. The only thing keeping me sane was the light at the end of the tunnel. $75,000. A full academic ride if my grades held. A life none of them could ruin, but I was about to find out exactly how stupid I was to trust anything in that house. I came downstairs one Saturday morning and found Trent at the kitchen table, eating cereal. My eyes instantly locked onto his wrist. He was wearing my father's watch, the heavy steel one with the slightly cracked crystal. My dad wore it every single day of his life, and now it was sitting on my stepbrother's wrist like a cheap toy. I stopped dead in my tracks. Trent looked up, saw my face, and smiled. He smiled because he knew exactly how much it was going to hurt, and he wanted front row seats. "Morning," he mumbled around a mouthful of Cheerios. "Take it off," I said, my voice dangerously low. "Take what off?" "You know what? Take it off right now." "Oh, this?" Trent tapped the glass face. "Dad gave it to me. He said all that old stuff in the box in the hallway closet was just sitting there rotting. I picked the best one. It looks better on me anyway." "Your dad had those skinny little wrists, didn't he?" "Thing probably hung off him like a bracelet." I moved before my brain even registered the decision. I crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, grabbed his arm, and ripped the watch off his wrist so violently that the steel band snapped with a loud crack. Trent screamed like I had severed his hand. "You psycho!" he shrieked, clutching his wrist. Dad. Dad. Vance came charging into the kitchen. He saw Trent holding his red wrist, saw me clutching the broken watch, and his face went flat with fury. What the hell did you do? What did I do? I screamed, the ghost I had been for 3 years instantly evaporating. Your son is wearing my father's watch. You gave away my father's things like they belong to you. Everything in this house belongs to this family now. Vance roared back. Your father's things were sitting in a box in the dark doing nothing for anybody. I decided they should get used. Use Ed? You don't get to decide that. You didn't know him. You didn't love him. You showed up 11 months after we put him in the ground and started erasing him like he never existed. Vance stepped into my space, towering over me. I am the only reason this house functions. I'm the one who takes care of your mother. I'm the one who puts up with your endless, pathetic drama. Your father left a mess behind him, and I have spent 3 years cleaning it up. He paused, his eyes narrowing into slits. Including you. Like a stain I'm still trying to scrub out. I shoved him. Both hands, right in the chest, with everything I had. He stumbled backward and hit the doorframe hard enough that the drywall cracked. When he recovered, there was a sick, gleeful light in his eyes. I had finally handed him the exact excuse he had been fishing for since day one. Elena, he bellowed. Elena, get in here right now. My mother came running around the corner. She saw Vance rubbing the back of his head. She saw Trent fake sobbing at the table. She saw the broken steel watch shaking in my bleeding hand. Liam, what did you do? She gasped. He gave Dad's watch to Trent. He's been going through Dad's boxes giving away his things. You put your hands on him, she whispered, staring at Vance. Did you hear a single word I just said? He gave away Dad's watch. My mother looked at Vance, and for one agonizing second, I thought she might actually hear me. I thought she might, just this once, stand on my side of the line. Then Vance winced, playing up his injury, and my mother's face closed like a steel vault. I don't care what he did. You do not put your hands on people. She took a deep, trembling breath. Your father would be so ashamed of you right now. Don't. I choked out, tears of pure rage finally spilling over. Do not use him against me. He raised you better than this, she said coldly. He would be sick watching you act like a violent animal over a piece of metal. Something inside me permanently died right there on the kitchen tiles. The last, desperate little piece of my inner child that still believed she loved me. The piece that still thought, if it ever came down to life or death, she would pick her son. Go to your room, she commanded. Do not come out until I tell you. I went up the stairs in a complete daze. Behind me, I could hear Vance telling her he didn't feel safe in his own home anymore. I heard Trent claiming I tried to break his arm. I heard my mother apologizing over and over and over again for me. For my existence. For the burden I was. I sat on my mattress, looked at the snapped watch band in my palm, and finally understood the reality of my life. I had no one. I had nothing, and the only way out was if I stopped waiting for somebody to come save me. That night, I waited until 3 a.m. I crept downstairs, gathered every single thing I had left of my father: the photos, his flannel shirt that still smelled faintly of sawdust, the letter he wrote me for my 10th birthday, and I hid them in the trunk of my car under the spare tire. Then I went back to sleep, and I started counting the days until I turned 19. They thought they had broken me. They had absolutely no idea. All they had done was teach me how to be ruthless. Update 1. 6 months later, I applied to 12 colleges and got accepted into all 12. I secured full-ride academic scholarships at 3 of them, largely off the essays I wrote about overcoming extreme domestic adversity. Funny how the worst years of your life make for spectacular college application material. All I needed was my dad's $75,000 fund for living expenses, and I was entirely free. I found my mother alone in the living room after dinner. Vance was out back admiring his new custom deck, and Trent was upstairs playing video games. Mom, I need to talk to you about Dad's college fund, I said, keeping my voice perfectly neutral. I'm going to need the account details so I can transfer it for housing next semester. All the color instantly drained from her face. She looked like she had just been shot. The fund, she stammered. Right. The fund. Dad told me it was $75,000. He said it would be legally mine when I turned 18, but I waited until now to need it. She couldn't find a single word. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Liam. There were expenses after he died. There were massive medical bills. The funeral, the house needed desperate work. We had to make some adjustments. Adjustments? Vance appeared in the sliding glass doorway, wiping his hands on a towel. He had that smug, predatory look on his face. That money was absorbed into the household finances years ago. Liam, we're one family here. We share resources. I stared at him, my blood turning to ice. Absorb. Your mother and I discussed it. It was the responsible thing to do. Trent's athletic development, improvements to the property, general family expenses. Trent's development? He plays amateur hockey. The kid has real talent, Vance snapped defensively. Do you have any idea what a showcase season costs? Ice time, travel, elite gear, a private coach twice a week? Your father's money gave him a shot at a real future. I turned to my mother, my vision swimming. You spent my dead father's college fund on your stepson's hockey hobby? She couldn't look at me. She stared at the carpet. It wasn't like that. Things got so complicated. The money was just sitting there, and we needed it to keep the family afloat. $75,000. My voice came out strange, echoing like it belonged to someone else. Money my father worked 17 years to save. Money he explicitly told me was mine. And you gave it to Vance. Everything we do is for this family. Vance barked, stepping toward me. I'm sorry your father made grand promises he wasn't around to keep, but that money is gone, and you need to grow up and accept reality. You got scholarships. You'll land on your feet. You always do. You're strong and independent, remember? The old me would have screamed. The old me would have put a fist through the drywall and given them the exact unstable teenager scene they had been scripting for years. But I wasn't him anymore. I just nodded slowly. Yeah. I should have seen that coming. I turned to my mother and looked at her with absolutely zero emotion in my face. You've been a coward for 4 years. Aren't you tired yet? She flinched like I had struck her with a whip. Liam, all I see when I look at you now is a weak, pathetic woman who let a stranger steal from her own son. You do not speak to your mother that way. Vance roared, his face turning purple. You ungrateful, spiteful little. I'm honest, I cut him off, standing up. You wanted me independent? Congratulations. I am. I walked out of that house, got in my car, and drove straight to my grandpa Arthur's house. He was my dad's father, and the only person left alive who remembered my dad the way I did. The only one who still said his name out loud without flinching. Grandpa opened the door before I even knocked. He took one look at my face, stepped aside, and pointed to the kitchen table. I sat down and told him everything. The room, the watch, the fund, the hockey. Every miserable, degrading year of it. Grandpa listened the entire way through without interrupting once. When I finally finished, he poured 2 cups of black coffee, sat down heavily, and shook his head. That woman, he rasped. Your father knew. God help him, he always knew. I looked up, wiping my eyes. Knew what? Grandpa stood up, walked over to the old oak cabinet above the refrigerator, and pulled down a thick, heavy manila folder. The corners were soft and frayed from being handled so many times. He set it on the table between us. Your dad wasn't a fool, Liam. He knew exactly who he married. He knew she was soft. He knew she'd remarry inside a year because she has never, in her entire life, been capable of being alone in a room. And he knew whoever came through that door next would try to take everything he built. Grandpa sat back down. So, he made a plan. I stared at the folder, my heart pounding against my ribs. What kind of plan? He opened the folder and started laying heavy, watermarked legal documents across the table. The college fund was a joint account. When he died, she legally inherited it. What she did with it was morally bankrupt, but it wasn't illegal. That money is gone, son. But. Grandpa paused, his eyes hardening. Your father knew she might drain it. So he protected what actually mattered. He pulled a single, heavily stamped document out from under the rest and slid it across the wood toward me. The house, Liam. I looked down at the paper. I read the bold, aggressive legal font. I saw my own name sitting there next to phrases like times irrevocable trust, sole beneficiary, transfer of deed, and times recorded. I looked back up at him, my brain short-circuiting. What is this? The house is yours. Legally, entirely yours. It's been in a blind trust since the month before he went into hospice. He didn't tell you because you were 15 and he didn't want you carrying that kind of secret weight. He didn't tell her because he already knew exactly what she'd do with it if she thought she had equity. Grandpa tapped the paper. Your mother has been living in your house for 4 years, either genuinely believing it's hers, or knowing better and praying to God you'd never think to ask for the deed. The trust dissolves the day you turn 19. You get full, undisputed legal control. You can let her stay. You can charge her rent. You can sell it. You can put her out on the sidewalk. It is 100% yours. I couldn't breathe. The house. My father's house. The walls I grew up inside, the room they violently took from me, the custom deck Vance had spent $25,000 building last summer, the gym flooring Trent sweat on, it was all mine. It had always been mine. There's more. Grandpa said quietly, pulling out a stack of bank statements. He opened this account in your name and my name only. Your mother's name is nowhere near it. It's been sitting in a high-yield account for 4 years, untouched, waiting for you. I looked at the balance, $85,400. They stole what they could reach, Grandpa said, his voice thick with emotion. But they've been sleeping inside what they couldn't. They never had the slightest idea what your father actually put away. I sat there staring at my father's familiar, Messy handwriting on legal forms he filled out in a sterile lawyer's office while his body was actively dying. He saw all of it coming. He knew she would fold. He knew a parasite like Vance would walk in through the hole she left. He knew I would need a fortress, so he built me one. "The last thing your father ever asked me," Grandpa whispered, a tear finally escaping his eye, "was that I not make trouble for your mother until you were old enough to defend yourself. So I sat in this kitchen for 4 years and kept a promise to a dead man while you were up there suffering on a mattress in a guest room. I should have come and got you. I am so sorry." He reached across the table and gripped my hand. "I am done keeping that promise. Do you understand what this means, Liam?" I nodded slowly, a terrifying, icy calm washing over my entire body. "In 2 months, I turn 19. I own the house they treated like their personal kingdom. What are you going to do?" Grandpa asked. I thought about the last 4 years. The exact tone of Vance's voice when he told me I didn't exist. The sound of the drill tearing my dad's wood off the walls. The broken watch. The stolen fund. Every single time I was told to be strong because my mother was too weak to love me. "I'm going to take back every single thing they think is theirs," I said. I drove home that night with the folder locked inside my glove box. I walked into the house like it was any other Tuesday. Vance was wiping down the kitchen counter, and he threw me a dirty look. "Nice of you to show up. We're going to have a long talk about your disrespect tonight." I didn't even break my stride. "I'm tired. We can do it tomorrow." "Excuse me? You don't get to just walk away from me." I walked up the stairs, shut my door, locked it, and smiled in the dark. 2 months. I had survived this prison for 4 years. 2 months was nothing. 6 weeks in, my mother almost ruined everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. I came into the kitchen for a glass of water, and my mother was sitting at the table with a manila envelope in front of her. Vance was standing right behind her chair, his hands resting heavily on the back of it. The second I saw them arranged like that, every alarm bell in my head went off. "Liam, sit down for a minute," she said nervously. I sat. She slid a single piece of paper across the table. "It's paperwork for the home insurance. Since you're about to turn 19 and you're technically an adult resident, the insurance company needs everybody on the policy to sign off to maintain our premium rate." She placed a pen on top of the paper. "It's just a formality. Sign at the bottom." I looked down at the page. It was not an insurance form. I had spent the last 6 weeks reading every single legal document in Grandpa's folder until I had them memorized. I knew exactly what I was looking at in under 3 seconds. It was a quitclaim deed. Grantor. Liam, grantee, Elena, mother. Consideration. $1. She had a pen sitting on top of a legal document that would have permanently transferred ownership of a $650,000 house to her name for the price of a single dollar. I did not move a muscle. I did not change my facial expression. I have never worked harder at anything in my entire life than I worked at keeping my face perfectly blank in that chair. She knew. She had known the whole time. For 4 years, she watched me get psychologically gutted in her kitchen, completely aware that the floor under her feet legally belonged to her son. And she had purposely waited until a few weeks before my 19th birthday to try to trick me into signing it away. Because after my birthday, she would need a lawyer and a miracle. Right now, she just needed me to be a trusting, stupid kid. I glanced at Vance. He looked bored, scrolling on his phone. He had absolutely no idea what was on that paper. She was hiding it from him, too. "Sure," I said casually, picking up the paper. "Leave it with me. I've got a work shift in 20 minutes, I'll read it over tonight." My mother's hand shot out and grabbed the edge of the paper. "It'll take you 10 seconds, Liam. Just sign it now." "I'd rather read it first. You always tell me to read things before I sign them." That was a lie. She had never given me life advice. But it was the kind of thing a good mother would say, so she couldn't argue with it without explicitly admitting she didn't want me reading it. She looked up at Vance for help. Vance sighed, annoyed. "Just let him read the damn insurance form, Elena. God, he has to make everything a production." She slowly let go of the paper. I took it upstairs, locked my door, laid it flat on my mattress, and photographed every single inch of it front and back 3 times. I uploaded the photos to a cloud drive. The next morning, I told her I accidentally spilled coffee on it and threw it away. She smiled tightly and said she would print another one. She never did. She was too terrified of pushing the issue and making me suspicious. 2 weeks before my birthday, Trent tried to physically intimidate me. I was walking to the bathroom, and he stepped into the hallway, blocking my path with his arms crossed. "Say you're sorry for what you said about my dad," he demanded. "No. Then you're not getting past." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This pampered brat who had spent 4 years making my life miserable just because he could. "You know what I finally figured out about you, Trent? You spent 4 years trying to break me. But at the end of all of it, I have a job. I have massive savings. I have a full ride to college. What do you have?" His jaw clenched. I have a family that loves me. You have a man who did everything for you so you'd never learn how to survive. The second he can't carry you financially, you're going to hit the concrete so hard it's going to shatter your teeth. And I'm going to be gone, living my life, not thinking about you at all. I stepped closer, dropping my voice. Move. He hesitated, but the absolute deadness in my eyes scared him. He stepped aside. I walked past him, smiling. Update 2. My 19th birthday arrived. No party. No cake. Nobody in that house even said the word birthday out loud. I woke up, went to my morning classes, and came home. Vance was in the den watching TV. My mother was folding laundry. Trent was out with friends. I picked up my backpack. Going to dinner with Grandpa, I announced to the room. My mother nodded without looking up. Have fun. She didn't know what day it was. It didn't even hurt. I was so far past hurting it was almost funny. I wasn't going to dinner. I was going to a lawyer's office in downtown Seattle. Her name was Harper, and she was the estate attorney my father had retained. She had my grandfather's folders spread across her massive mahogany desk. The trust has officially dissolved as of midnight, Harper said, tapping her pen. The house is entirely in your name. Current market appraisal is roughly $650,000. Your mother has been living in it for 4 years as a tenant at sufferance with zero legal claim. Then, I pulled out my phone and showed her the photographs of the quitclaim deed. Harper went completely still. She stared at the screen for a long time. Liam. This document cannot exist unless someone has physically read the blind trust deed. There is no other way to draft this specific language. She looked up at me, her eyes sharp. This is a documented attempt to fraudulently transfer real property away from a beneficiary. If you want to, you can make her life a living hell with this. What are my options on the house? I asked. You can let them stay and draft a lease. You can sell it and force them out. Or you can formally evict them. It's your property. Your call. I want them out. All of them. She nodded and pulled out a fresh legal pad. I'll draft a formal 30-day notice to vacate. Since there is no lease, Washington state law requires a 20 to 30-day notice. Once it's served, the clock starts. I can have a process server hand it to them tomorrow. I thought about Vance's face. I thought about my mother's cowardice. No, I said. Print it right now, I'm handing it to them myself. 3 hours later, I walked back into the house. It was a completely ordinary evening. The house smelled like roasting chicken. Vance was at the kitchen counter chopping vegetables. Trent was on the couch scrolling TikTok. My mother was in the den. I need everybody in the living room. Right now, I said loudly. Vance's knife stopped. He glared at me. Excuse me, family meeting. Living room. Now. I walked in and sat down in the single armchair. Vance marched in, wiping his hands on a rag, visibly furious. He yelled for my mother, who came out looking confused. Trent didn't get off the couch, but he muted his phone. They arranged themselves around me exactly the way they had 4 years earlier when Vance told me I didn't exist. Now, I was the one writing the rules. What is this about? My mother asked nervously. The house? I said flatly. Vance rolled his eyes aggressively. What about the house, Liam? Did you break something? I reached into my jacket, pulled out the thick legal envelope, and dropped it onto the coffee table. It landed with a heavy smack. That is a formal, legally binding notice to vacate. You have exactly 30 days to pack your things and get off my property. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. I watched their faces move through utter confusion, then deep disbelief, and finally, the creeping dawn of sheer terror. Vance let out a short, ugly laugh. What the hell are you talking about? I looked him dead in the eyes. The house. This house. It's mine. My dad put it in an irrevocable blind trust the month before he died. It transferred to my name entirely at midnight last night. You have been living in my house since the night you walked through that door. That arrangement ends today. Vance's face cycled through 5 different shades of red in 3 seconds. That is insane. Elena, tell him he's insane. But my mother wasn't saying anything. She had gone the color of spoiled milk. She was staring at the envelope on the table with her mouth slightly open, her hands trembling violently in her lap. You knew, I said, turning my gaze to her. Didn't you, Mom? You've known the entire time. She couldn't look at me. She couldn't look at Vance. She just sat there, paralyzed. Vance's head whipped around slowly. Elena. What is he talking about? She didn't answer. The room felt like all the oxygen had been sucked out of it. I leaned back in the chair, crossed my legs, and smiled. So, let's talk about what happens next. Vance recovered his rage. This is a scam. You can't forge some fake paper and pretend you own a $600,000 house. Elena, say something to him. She opened her mouth, but only a pathetic squeak came out. Let me help her, I said. I took my phone out of my pocket, pulled up the photo of the quitclaim deed, and slid it across the glass table until it stopped right in front of Vance. 6 weeks ago, she sat me down and told me I needed to sign a home insurance form. Take a look at the screen, Vance. That's a quitclaim deed. She tried to buy this house off her 18-year-old son for $1 single, 6 weeks before he legally took control of it. Did she mention that to you? Vance stared at the phone. His eyes darted across the legal text. She didn't tell you. Did she? I continued, twisting the knife. She's been sitting on the knowledge that I own this house for 4 years, and she didn't tell you. Then she tried to commit real estate fraud to steal it, and she didn't tell you that either. I have never, in my entire life, watched a marriage completely vaporize as fast as I did in the next 90 seconds. Vance stood up so fast the coffee table violently jolted. 4 years of reality crashed down on his head all at once. You knew. His voice was dangerously quiet. Quiet was so much worse than the yelling. You let me spend $25,000 of my own money on that custom deck. You let me tear out a room and put $10,000 of gym equipment in it. You let me plan my entire financial future inside a house you knew wasn't yours. I was going to fix it, she sobbed, shrinking into the couch cushions. You were going to fix it? I took out $150,000 in personal unsecured loans to fund this lifestyle because you told me we had $600,000 in home equity to fall back on. I am in debt up to my eyeballs for a house I don't own. I blinked. Wait. What? I had to suppress a genuine bark of laughter. Vance had taken out personal loans to fund the deck, the renovations, and Trent's elite hockey gear, assuming he could eventually refinance the house to pay it off. Because his name wasn't on the deed, the bank only gave him unsecured loans at a massive interest rate. He was financially ruined. I thought if he signed the paper, it would be ours. My mother wailed. You gambled my entire financial life on a teenager being too stupid to read? Vance screamed, spit flying from his mouth. Trent was looking back and forth between all of us, looking like a panicked toddler. Wait. Can somebody please explain what's happening? Where are we supposed to go? Not my problem, I said, standing up. You've been extremely ungrateful guests who stole my food, took my room, and made my life a living hell for 4 years. Your invitation is revoked. 30 days. I walked up the stairs and locked my door. Behind me, the house literally shook with the sound of Vance screaming, my mother hysterically sobbing, and Trent hyperventilating. I lay on my mattress, looked at the ceiling, and slept like a baby for the first time in 4 years. The next 30 days were a masterclass in desperation. Vance tried charm first. He caught me in the kitchen on day 3. Liam, buddy, I know I've been hard on you, but we're family. Surely we can work out a lease agreement? I have $150,000 in debt, Liam. If I have to pay rent somewhere else, I'll go bankrupt. We're not family, I said, pouring my coffee. You told me I didn't exist. Remember? You have 27 days. When charm failed, he tried legal threats. He hired a bulldog lawyer with money he didn't have to contest the trust, claiming my father had diminished capacity from the cancer meds. My father's lawyer, Harper, absolutely slaughtered them. The trust was ironclad, witnessed by 2 doctors who evaluated his mental state on video. The judge threw Vance's injunction out in 10 minutes and ordered him to pay my legal fees. By day 20, Trent completely broke. I found him standing in the middle of his gym room, surrounded by empty boxes, just crying. I don't know how to pack, he sobbed. I don't know how to do any of this. Where are we going? Dad's credit is destroyed. Sounds like a you problem, I said from the doorway. You're ruining our lives. He screamed. I'm taking back what's mine. You're the one hitting the concrete. Like I promised. On day 28, my mother finally knocked on my door. I opened it but blocked the frame. She looked like she had aged 10 years in a month. Liam, please, she begged, tears streaming down her face. Vance is leaving me. He says he's filing for divorce because of the debt. I have nowhere to go. I'm your mother. Your father wouldn't want this. I felt a surge of pure, unfiltered disgust. Don't you ever tell me what my father would want. You lost that right the day you let a stranger gut his house and steal his watch. Dad saw exactly who you were. He knew you'd fold. That's why he protected me from you. You had 4 years to be my mother, and you chose them every single time. Now you get to live with it. I slammed the door in her face. Day 30. I woke up, showered, and sat on the front porch with a cup of coffee. The sheriff's deputy arrived exactly at noon to enforce the eviction. Vance was frantically throwing garbage bags full of clothes into the back of his truck. Trent was sitting on the curb, crying into his hands. My mother was sitting in the passenger seat of her sedan, staring blankly out the windshield, completely catatonic. The deputy walked up to Vance. Sir, you need to vacate the premises immediately. Vance turned to me, his eyes bloodshot and wild. You're going to end up completely alone. Nobody is ever going to love somebody this cold. Maybe, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. But I'll be alone in a $650,000 house my father built for me. You'll be alone in a motel room with $150,000 in debt. Vance lunged at me. The deputy immediately tackled him into the grass, slammed a knee into his back, and zip-tied his wrists. Trent screamed. My mother didn't even turn her head to look. I watched the deputy put my screaming stepfather into the back of a squad car for assaulting an officer. I watched Trent get into my mother's car, and I watched her drive away without looking back at the house once. I stood up, walked inside, and locked the custom front door my father had hung with his own 2 hands. The house was completely silent. Every single board of it was mine. Tup commence. User 1 upvotes. 14. 5. K. The absolute pinnacle of this is Vance taking out $150K in UN secured personal loans to build a deck and a gym on property he didn't own, all because your cowardly mother lied to him about having equity. The financial ruin he is facing is catastrophic. Unsecured loans at today's interest rates? He's going to be paying for Trent's hockey gear until the heat death of the universe. Well played, OP. Your dad was a chess grandmaster. User 2 upvotes. 11. 2K. The fact that your mom tried to hit you with a quitclaim deed disguised as an insurance form makes my blood boil. That is straight up predatory fraud. She watched you get emotionally abused for 4 years, knew she was sitting on a gold mine that belonged to you, and tried to rob you blind for $1 just to keep her shiny new husband happy. I am so glad you took photos. Let her rot in whatever cheap apartment she can find. User 3 upvotes. 9. 8K. You're the one hitting the concrete. Like I promised. Ice cold. Trent got exactly what he deserved. He wasn't just a passive participant. He actively mocked your dead father, stole his watch, and destroyed your room. He enjoyed watching you suffer. Now he has to figure out how to do laundry while living in a motel because his daddy is completely bankrupt. User 4 upvotes. 7. 1K. Your grandfather is a real one, but I can't imagine the pain he felt watching you suffer for 4 years just to honor your dad's legal strategy. Your dad knew exactly what would happen. He knew that trust was the only way to ensure they couldn't touch the principal asset. Enjoy your house, OP. Build a new loft bed. Paint the walls. Put the watch in a glass display case in the living room just because you can. My mom favored my sister and ignored me. In the end, my perfect sister ran off with mom's money, leaving her devastated. I was 23 years old and lived at home with my mom, 52 years old, and older sister, 26 years old. This manner of life persisted after my dad's death 5 years ago. Emma, my sister, was mom's favorite from the beginning. Anyone who spent even 5 minutes with our family could see this. It wasn't just me. When she was a kid, Emma was the center of attention and the recipient of all the newest fashions and technology. Even though mom never missed an Emma school function, she would make up an excuse like, "I'm too tired" or "I have to work late," whenever I asked her to attend my own. Eventually, I grew accustomed to the pain. There was little change as we aged. While Emma attended a prominent university to get a law degree, I got my associate's degree in graphic design from a small college. Emma was the object of mom's incessant boasting. "My Emma is going to be a big-shot lawyer one day," she would proudly proclaim. All the while, people either didn't care or were downright disappointed by my chosen work path. However, the true problem wasn't merely favoritism, it was the unequal allocation of domestic duties. I was supposed to handle all the housework since Emma was supposed to be studying. When I say all, I really do mean it. I would begin my day at 6 o'clock every morning. Making breakfast would be my first order of business. Emma favored a vegetable omelet accompanied by a serving of fruit, while mom liked her eggs cooked to perfection with toast and no crust. In my regular state, I would hastily seize a granola bar for my own consumption. Before going out to my part-time job at a nearby coffee shop, I would tidy up the kitchen, wash the dishes and begin a load of laundry after breakfast. Despite mom's lack of request, I worked there to help out around the house and save up for my own place. I would do everything from dusting to mopping, vacuuming, and everything in between as soon as I got home in the afternoon. Meal planning and grocery buying were also my responsibilities. This was never easy because both mom and Emma had very specific nutritional needs. Even the dinner was a show. While Emma sat on the couch, fiddling with her phone, I would whip up extravagant dinners. Talking to her mom about her day, school, and future goals was a regular occurrence. Word of mouth would be an uphill battle for me. Guess who had to do the dishes after supper? I am, once again. Mom would give me a disapproving look and say things like, "Your sister needs to focus on her studies," whenever I ventured to complain or ask for assistance. One day, she will have a prosperous life and be able to provide for all of us. Assisting around the house would be the bare minimum you can do. Emotionally and physically, it was draining. While Emma was free to unwind and have fun, I felt like a housekeeper in my own house, rushing around all the time. Worst part was that mom was completely unconcerned with my attempts. From that point on, it was Emma this, and Emma that. Things reached a boiling point on a certain day. I was hoping to reconnect with some college pals that day, because it was a Saturday. Our design class was going to have us work on a collaborative project. The opportunity to leave the house and engage in social interaction that did not include serving coffee or doing chores was more than enough to make me look forward to it all week, and not only because of the project. As is my habit, I got up bright and early to finish my errands before I left. My mom walked into the kitchen just as I was preparing breakfast. "Oh great, you're awake," she remarked. "Today, I'm counting on you to give the living room a good scrub. We need to scrub the carpet and remove and wash the curtains." My chest ached. "But Mom," I said, "today I am scheduled to... Remember when I told you about our group project?" Mom scowled. "You can reschedule, right? Do not overlook this. Next week we have company coming over, and I would like the house to be spotless." In an effort to maintain composure, I inhaled deeply. "We will have to reschedule. This has been in the works for weeks. Perhaps Emma could pitch in and clean a little." It was almost 10 in the morning when Emma, seemingly at a whim, strolled into the kitchen still dressed in her pajamas. "Morning," she said with a yawn as she reached for a muffin from the platter I had just placed. Turning to Emma, Mom's expression softened. "Hello there, darling. Had a good night's sleep? Rest assured, there will be an online study group meeting later on." With a muffin still in her mouth, Emma nodded. Mom redirected her gaze to me, her face becoming even more stern. "Your sister needs to get some serious schoolwork done. No one should expect her to clean. Her education is of the utmost importance to you." Something inside of me snapped. Every bit of pent-up resentment, animosity, and pain finally burst forth. "And what about my education?" I spoke more loudly as I inquired. "What will happen to my plans? This is my life. Isn't their significance immense?" Mom appeared surprised, to which she responded, "Of course they matter, but..." I interrupted her. "But it's still not equal to Emma's, is it? Never on par with Emma's." Finally speaking up was Emma, who had been observing this discussion with wide eyes. "Stop including me in this, please. When Mom wants you to help out around the house, it's not my fault." I was already furious before that. "Although you have never once offered to lend a hand, please don't take this personally. Sit back and enjoy the ride." Mom made an effort to step in. "Now let's all calm down, there's no need to..." Still, I was feeling very well at the moment. I was helpless as years of suppressed feelings finally broke out. "No more settling down for me, Mom. I've had enough of being the housekeeper. Treating me like Emma is beneath me and I'm sick of it. Everything, including the partiality and unreasonable expectations, has had enough of me." I looked across at Emma. "Why does Mom never ask you to help out with housework?" Her reasoning is that she believes you have great potential to become wealthy and provide for her in the years to come. It's quite the burden, isn't it? But well, at least I'm doing all the work, so you can relax. Redness spread across Emma's face. "You can't be fair. My education are a top priority for me. And I don't?" My response was a rapid one. "In addition to schooling and taking care of the house, I'm working part-time. When will it be safe to think about the future?" Again, Mom attempted to intervene. "You are aware, my darling, that we value all that you do? The difference is that Emma's chosen profession will, in the end, pay off more handsomely." A slap in the face was the feeling I got from such remarks. "Is that all? Is the amount of money I could make in the future the only thing that matters to this family?" Mom swiftly reversed her course. "No, it is not my intention. Compared to what you're studying, a job in law offers more stability." "Coloring and design, Mom. One of my majors is graphic design. Is it so important that you've taken the time to research my life goals and aspirations?" I knew exactly what to do based on Mom's expression. She was unconcerned. Without ever truly comprehending it, she had dismissed my career path. I pushed back the tears that threatened to well up in my eyes. At this very moment, I would not weep. "What do you think? That's it. Today I will not be cleaning the living room. I intend to get down with my pals and get some stuff done on my project. Plus, I'm leaving the house until we have a serious talk about how things work here when I return." I then snatched my suitcase and bolted from the kitchen, leaving Mom and Emma standing there in disbelief. A strange feeling of relief mingled with fury and hurt as I banged the front door shut behind me. I had finally spoken out for myself after what felt like an eternity. The remainder of the day slipped my mind. In an effort to forget about the argument from earlier, I got together with my pals and dove headfirst into our project. The day progressed though, and uncertainties began to arise. Did I react too strongly? Had I been self-centered? Perhaps I should have simply rearranged my plans and cleaned up as Mom requested. Note, I got back to my house that night, emotionally and intellectually drained by the day's events, but still intent on keeping my word and having that serious talk. But the tension was palpable the moment I stepped through the door. When I walked into the living room, neither Mom nor Emma gave me a second look. With some hesitation, I spoke up and asked, "Hey, can we talk?" No sound. Both of them peered intently at the television, but it was clear that neither of them was paying attention. I gathered my courage, inhaled deeply, and chose to go ahead anyhow. "Listen, I get that you had a long morning, but I feel like we have to talk about this. Emma, all I'm asking is that you pitch in a bit more with the housework. I would feel more comfortable if we were treated fairly." Mom finally turned to look at me, her face showing no emotion. "I think you've said quite enough already," Emma interjected, her tone betraying her contempt. "Indeed, your voice was clearly audible to us earlier today. You're envious of my future prospects and me. How egocentric are you?" I was hit square in the stomach. Is it egocentric? Asking for aid isn't selfish in any way. Grandma scowled. "It's like you're breaking the silence in this house. Her education should be Emma's top priority. You're simply envious because you're aware that your small pastime won't be very successful." "Hobby?" I said it again, my jaw dropping. "Graphic design is a real career, Mom, if you'd ever bothered to learn about it." "Enough," Mom interrupted me. "I won't have you disrespecting us like this in our own home." Abashed, I remained still. It had been my sincere wish that they would have considered my words and come to terms with how unfair things had been. Nevertheless, they redoubled their efforts. "Our very own home," I murmured again. "I see. I suppose it's no longer my home." I retreated to my room after saying nothing further. I returned outside after stowing a few articles of clothing and necessities in a bag and retrieving my laptop. Mom and Emma continued to stare fixedly at me from the living room. "I'll be at Sarah's," I texted, mentioning my college best buddy. "I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later." Relieved and heartbroken all at once, I slammed the door behind me. Unfortunately, I needed some breathing room to figure out what to do next, so I resorted to this temporary measure. Unlike at Sarah's, I wouldn't be made to feel like an inferior or treated like a maid. I have no idea what the future holds, but I am certain that I'm entitled to better than this. I should begin to believe that now. Update. I must admit, leaving my family home has been an eye-opening experience. It has been approximately 3 months since I made the move. My friend Sarah has been my roommate, and we've been dividing up the rent and housework evenly. Everything I do on a daily basis has changed. Since I no longer have to worry about taking care of the house, I've had more time than ever before to devote to my education and my emerging profession as a graphic designer. I've interned at a regional marketing agency, finished a number of freelance jobs, and am now building my portfolio. When you're not worn out from being a maid for other people, you can do so much. However, unexpected events do happen in life. While grocery shopping last week, I unexpectedly ran into Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor. She looked worried and wanted to know how I was doing before she inquired about Mom. Evidently, she had observed Mom's recent struggles and apparent overwhelm while tending to the yard. According to Mrs. Johnson, "Your mother insisted she was fine, despite her offer of assistance." I was under the impression that Emma was assisting her. A wave of shame and anger washed over me. Obviously, Emma was making everything worse. Since when would she begin? The most shocking thing, though, wasn't even that. In her usual gossipy but well-intentioned manner, Mrs. Johnson spilled yet another bombshell. "And how is Emma's academic progress coming along? I pray that the incident involving Professor Andrews has not had a significant impact on her." Mrs. Johnson's eyes expanded, so I must have appeared perplexed. "Oh no, I guess you were aware. Professor Andrews and Emma have been spotted all over town together quite a bit. There has been discussion." Feeling disoriented, I thanked Mrs. Johnson and limped out of the store. My ideal sister Emma was careening around with a professor instead of concentrating on her promising legal career. The neighbors even took note and started chatting about it. So it must have been really major. I was unhappy most of the time, but there was a twisted satisfaction in there somehow. The golden child wasn't all that golden after all. It broke my heart to see Mom trying to get everything done that I used to do on her alone. Tragic for Emma, who put her career in jeopardy for a professor's romance. I felt terrible for our family since it appeared like everything was coming to a crumbling end without me. Given this data, I am unsure of my next steps. While a part of me longs to make amends and reach out, another part recalls the pain and years of inferiority and questions whether it's worthwhile. My personal development and recovery are my current priorities. Self-worth and my chosen profession are becoming more apparent to me. A life where my worth is recognized and my efforts are valued is something I'm working toward. Perhaps Mom and Emma will come to terms with what they've lost in due time. Perhaps they will not. I used to try so hard to win their favor, but now that I'm on my own, I recognize that it was a mistake. The circle of life always seems to close, doesn't it? When I finally felt like I had things under control 6 months later, life decided to throw me another curveball. My phone rang on a peaceful Sunday night while I worked on a freelancing assignment. Yeah, Mom. Since my departure, we hadn't had many conversations, so I was hesitant to respond. My mother's inconsolable wailing greeted me when I took up the phone. Mom, what's wrong? My pulse pounding, I inquired. She choked out, Emma's gone, as she sobbed. She took the most of my savings when she ran off with a boy from her university. The sensation was as if someone had doused me with icy water. Hearing that Emma had done something so careless and damaging was upsetting since, despite everything, she was still my sister. I'm coming over, I announced, hastily retrieving my keys. My heart nearly burst at the sight of my childhood house when I arrived. Compared to the spotless home Mom had usually kept, the house was in utter disarray. Even though it had just been a few months, Mom appeared to have aged significantly. She started crying again the second she laid eyes on me. I couldn't make sense of the conflicting feelings coursing through me as I comforted her while she sobbed. Mom gave me a glance with crimson-rimmed eyes once she cooled down. I've been so foolish, she whispered. The last several months have really enlightened me. I was completely mistaken on a lot of things, including you and Emma. She grasped both of my hands. Even though you were the reliable one who I could always rely on, I failed to recognize your worth and instead treated you like a commodity. My deepest apologies, my love. My own eyes started to brim up with tears. I never imagined I would get this kind of recognition, yet here it was. I want you, even though I know I don't deserve it, Mom went on to say. Are you thinking about returning home? Trust me when I say things are going to change. Looking at Mom, vulnerable and sincerely sorry, made me realize I couldn't turn my back on her, no matter how much I wanted to deny in order to shield myself from more harm. All right, Mom, I whispered. I'll come back, but things really do need to be different this time. A wave of relief swept over her as she enthusiastically nodded. They will be, I promise. Now I find myself back in my childhood home. It's weird, unsettling, yet somehow soothing all at once. My mother and I are working on improving our communication and mutual appreciation. My graphic design work has captured her attention, and she has even asked me to teach her the basics. Collaboratively, we are cleaning up the house and resolving the financial crisis that Emma caused. It's challenging, but we're making it work. We have not received any communication from Emma. She has my deepest sympathies, and I pray she is safe, but I can't shake the rage she inspired. Thanks to Mom's understanding, I'm able to keep up with my internship and freelancing job. Finding that sweet spot is going to take some time, but we're getting there. What is ahead is completely unknown to me. A part of me is still cautious, still trying to keep my emotions under check, but I also have hope. Perhaps this is the opportunity for a new beginning that our family has been seeking. For the time being, it suffices. It's not the happily ever after I had envisioned, but it is real. After my sister stole from me, my mother wants to defend her by sending me to military school. This took place when I was 14 years old, approximately 1 year before the divorce of my parents. My younger sister would always spend her allowance as if it were water, particularly on things like makeup, meals from the mall, video games, and clothing from Hot Topic that she purchased. In spite of the fact that I was also given an allowance, my father made me earn it by cleaning the house and working in the yard. My mother never forced my sister to do any duties, with the exception of cleaning her room, and my sister never did anything she didn't want to do unless her father was present to oversee her. In order to acquire additional funds, I mowed lawns, collected abandoned cans from various locations throughout the area in order to exchange them for a 5-cent deposit, and performed various other odd tasks across the neighborhood. I was putting money down at the time in order to get a scooter so that I could go around town. During the course of 2 years, I was able to save almost $2,000 by working a variety of odd jobs and putting away the majority of my allowance. The accumulation of that money, on the other hand, was not a simple task, primarily because of my sister. Despite the fact that she was aware of all the small hiding places where I used to keep my money, she would steal from them. The following is a memorable passage that I have paraphrased from what I remember. My response: "Hey sis, did you take my money again?" "Sister, what is it?" "No." When she was caught in the act of lying, she would stutter. You are a terrible liar, I said to you. $100 is missing from my savings account. Sis is saying, leave me alone, I didn't do it. She begins to act as if she is crying and then rushes to her mother. Sis is saying, Mommy, bro is picking on me. My response, she stole from my savings again. Shut up, my mother yelled at me while snapping her fingers. Is it not obvious that Mama's little girl is feeling upset? That is all there is to it? She said that she did not do it, so it is safe to assume that she did not do it. In that case, I'll put you on the ground if you don't let this go. The other person. I know she did it, and if you don't get the money back, I'll get Dad's help. Mom. There is no longer any requirement for that. Another thing is that you don't have any evidence that she stole your money. Yes, I do, says I. Every single dollar that I add to it is recorded in a ledger that I keep. A total of X was reached 3 days ago, however at this point, there is only Y. There is a missing $100, and you are aware that she has already stolen from my savings account on multiple occasions. That being said, I am aware that Sis has already used up all of her stipend for this month, but you still went shopping yesterday. Exactly where did she obtain the money, don't you think? Following a brief moment of reflection, Mom scowls. What do you know, mister? You are firmly planted. I am going to grab the belt if you do not go to your room, she said. I had the ability to discuss the matter further. However, if there is one thing that I picked up from being in that environment, it was the knowledge of when to stop talking and simply call my father. Therefore, without uttering a single word to either of them, I made my way to my room and slammed the door shut. After that, I reached for my brick-like Nokia cell phone, which I had at the time, and dialed my father's number while he was at work. After he did not pick up the phone, I left a message in which I explained everything. He contacted me back about an hour later and assured me that he will take care of the situation. Not long after that, I heard the ringing of the landline phone in the house, and then I heard my mother yelling at my father as she was on the phone in the kitchen. It was difficult for me to listen from my room, and the only thing I managed to pick up on was my mother trying to excuse her behavior. When she was in the wrong, however, that strategy was never successful, and she ended up saying something along the lines of, fine. In the event that she did, in fact, steal the money, you're obligated to repay it because she has already spent it. On the other hand, my mother yelled at me while she threw open my door. You little snitch, I can't believe you blew the whistle on me. You couldn't just let a little money slip through your fingers after everything I do for you. My response, so you admit that my sister took it then? A sneering mother says, you know what, it makes no difference to me. More money is required by girls than by boys. There is no reason why you shouldn't just hand it over to her. Simply said, it wasn't even that much. It wasn't just a little money, and you ought to know that, I said. In spite of the fact that she took $100, I would still want it back even if it was only $1. If someone stole from your purse, you would not want it to happen to you. The same thing would happen if my sister stole from me. She is guilty as you are aware. One way or another, I want that money backdated. She did nothing while I put great effort on it. Mom. My darling has no responsibilities. She is a princess and ought to be treated accordingly. Me? That isn't what bothers me. She may go be a princess away from my possessions and away from me. Mom. That's it, you tiny expletive. I'm going to knock your ass. Me, standing up and staring her eye to eye, as I was already as tall as her at 14 and pretty strong from all the outdoor work I was doing. Go ahead and try it. Since I did nothing wrong, I won't let you. My mother froze in position for a second, then let out a loud "Ray," and swung her arm to try and knock something off my dresser, but she swung too low and struck the dresser itself, which I assume truly hurt. She was giving me a terrible face as she grasped her hand to try and hold in the agony. Her teeth were snarling. She simply turned around then and left. When she didn't weigh was to go to her wine fridge and proceed to get drunk, I heard her making a racket, yelling and smashing the wall as she went down the hall, down the stairs, into the kitchen doing her regular routine when she didn't weigh was denied. From her bedroom door, my sister was watching me. She glanced at me scared and ran back inside her room slamming the door. Mom was fast changing. She was her ace in the hole for getting away with the horrors she did to me. My dad came home from work a few hours later and marched my sister into my room to see me. She admitted to pilfering from me, then informed me I was not grounded. Sis refused to even look at me the entire time she was being ordered to apologize, and she did so in the most quiet and squeaky voice at first, until my dad regularly told her to speak up till she was almost screaming it. Dad then handed me a $100 cash to cover what my sister stole and mentioned she was grounded for a week. The pilfered money will show up from her stipend. She began crying and called Dad horrible, then dashed to her room. Ignoring all of us, My mother merely sat on the rear patio intoxicated on her preferred wine. She never apologized to me and even behaved as though the whole incident never took place. My sister still received her next allowance as well, but at that time my mother gave it to her rather than my dad. On my dad's day off from work a few days later, we visited a nearby retailer where he purchased a combination safe to deposit my money and other little items in. We omitted telling my mother or sister I had it. It was set for a 4-digit code. To the best of memory, I used 4,962 back then. After locking the safe and emptying all of my money into it, I stored it at the rear of my closet. A few weeks passed, and one day after returning from mowing some neighbors, I discovered my room had been rifled. To let her know what sis did to my room, I gave my mother a call. Mom said, "My baby didn't do this." "Well then, did you?" I said. "Mom, no." "Me? Well, it could only have been one of you. No one else was here and this room was clean when I left." Mom clearly upset at getting caught by reason. "Fine, but if she did, then so what? You had it coming from not being kinder to her anyhow." She then turned to dash off. I phoned my dad once more and left another note explaining what transpired on his work answering machine. I then went to tell my sister I knew she was the one who tore apart my room. I said she couldn't get to my money anymore since I had locked it up in a safe before she could even try to respond to me. She then had an awful fit and naturally, nasty mama bear came running to save her. My sister kept wailing in her room for the next 20 minutes while I reiterated that sis couldn't get at my money anymore and returned to clean her room. Only thrown and spread around, nothing was truly missing or ruined. I gathered everything and restored it exactly how it was. Still, it was the most arrogant I had ever felt as I cleaned my room. The next day though, I discovered it ripped once more, and this time my window was damaged too. Not able to get the safe open, sis had thrown it out the window. I immediately contacted my father, and when my parents returned from work, my sister came clean about having done it, as if she were glad of herself. Saying I shouldn't have received the safe in the first place, my mother really tried to side with her. But, my dad chewed her up and stated he got it for me since he was sick and tired of her stealing from me. My dad has to pay me back each time she pilfers money from me and spends it since my mother never would. My dad got me a lock for my door and even a combination key lock box with the key to my room next to the door. We had to replace the complete window from my room. After shattering my window, my sister ground herself for a month and spent that whole time pining in her room. Mom always let dad go back to do what she wanted, like watching TV or playing video games, whenever he was home till he left work. Knowing that my sister and mother would have gone out of their way to make me more miserable, I decided not to say anything. Once her month-long grounding ended, my sister started pestering me for money each time she spent all of her stipend. She never saved anything, hence I just pointed out to her that she would never pay it back. To be honest, I created an IOU to see whether she would really sign it before dad. She ripped the paper in half later and went crying to mom once more over my rudeness. Mom and she would try to make me cough up the money for her, but I would remind her what dad would do. Thus if my sister needed any more money, it wouldn't come from me. My mom then actively sought to send me to military school, but dad objected. Also, for anyone wondering why my dad didn't simply assist me create a savings account back then, I honestly don't know. Saving it in cash seems like the way we handled things. Update. I once made my mother walk straight into my door. My sister had thrown my safe through my bedroom window, so shortly after my dad provided me a safe for my money, he also got me a deadbolt lock for my door with a wall-mounted lockbox requiring a code to access the key. Together, we installed the lock and lockbox while my sister and mother were not home. My sister came back and initially walked past my room. I watched her glance at the lock, then dashed to get mom. Coming thundering down the stairs to meet my dad and me was both of them. What I recall is the following paraphrased. Mom says, pointing and snapping a few times, "What the hell is that?" Father. "A door lock." Mom. "I know what the expletive thing is. Why is it in there?" Dad. "Because you never see fit to reprimand or stop our daughter from taking from Kegel or ransking his room. The lock stays so going forward." Mom. "This is my house and he is just 14. His door cannot have a lock." Dad said, "No, this is our house. Last I checked though, I paid most of the expenses including the mortgage. You seldom pay anything, and I'm tired of you giving our daughter such preference that Kegel suffers constantly." Mom says, "Well then, I demand you tell me the code for the lockbox at least." Deadpan staring dad. "I'm not doing that because you've shown I can't trust you anymore." Mom then blasted her top and rushed down the steps. My sister merely stood there pouting and then made slow walk into her room. With the new lock, things were good. It became second nature to me to lock it each time I left my bedroom. Many times when I entered the code to obtain the key, I spotted my sister and mother staring at me, but I always made sure to conceal their line of sight using my hand or body. Though they hated that, there was nothing they could do about it. One day late in the month, my sister came begging me for $40 to get a video game she absolutely desired. Me: why do you keep asking for money when you and I both know you'll never pay it back? Sis: I swear, I'll pay it back. Me: you won't? You know you would much prefer spend all of your allowance than pay me back. You spend everything you have then some each month. That's what you do always. Sis: No, I do not. Well then, how about we test that? I ask. Always have a witness for contracts, folks. I then went into my room, acquired a piece of paper and a pen, handwrote an IOU contract stating sis would pay me back the $40 upon receiving her monthly stipend, and dad would co-sign the IOU. After reading the paper, S began sniffling. She ripped it in half and then ran screaming to mom once more, like she did every single time her way was denied. Mom! Sis, bowing. Sobbing. Mom: what is it, darling small prince? What then did Kegel do? Me: I asked her to sign an IOU fronting dad as she wanted to borrow money. She then started to freckle. Mom: and why would you pursue that? She merely sought a small loan. Me: would you sign the IOU also to make sure she pays the money back? Mom says: you little expletive. I am not required to sign anything, now only loan her the money. Me: not without a signed IOU. Mom stood up, arm out as if about to strike me, then pulled back. Mom: you have to have a paper trail for everything. You're just like your father. I'd say it's a good thing I'm just like dad because it's far better than being just like sis is, because you never do anything good. Me, beginning to stroll up the stairs to my room at this point. Mom asked: what was that, you little expletive? Just as I entered my bedroom and locked the door, she started hurrying up the stairs. Back then, my mother used to yell at me by throwing open my bedroom door. She opened the in one sweeping stroke, lunging her body forward, but at this point I had only had the lock on my door for a brief while, so she wasn't used to it yet. She tried to throw open my door and smashed rather loudly directly into the deadbolt after I shut it. Then I heard her slump to the ground and begin to produce agonizing cries. She had very hard banged her body and face against the door. Her lip was plump and her forehead developed a bump from this old-fashioned solid wood door. She was spread out on the floor pounding her fists when I opened the door. Mom exclaimed: you did this to me, you little expletive. Me: you did it to yourself. Mom: you are anchored. Get away from my sight. I then called dad and he simply grumbled over the phone over the entire matter. He stated I wasn't grounded, but I was still in huge trouble for goading her and to let him handle her when he got home. That was about it. Dad gave me a harsh lecture at the end, coupled with extra housework and a cut in my stipend that month. Every time sis begged for money following that day, I asked her to sign an IOU. She truly did object to that. Update 2. It blew up in her face when my mother tried to have me sent to military school and produced my dad's signature. When I stood up to my mother when she threatened to spank me, she seemed to get more cautious that if she tried to harm me it would end very poorly for her. The final time. She mainly yelled at me. She never laid a finger on me ever more until years later, when she wanted my house. I gave it no thought and carried on with my regular schedule of classes and odd work. Right around my 15th birthday, my dad gave me an engine kit for my bike to get around town. I would be better off saving for a car than a scooter, he advised, and this would help now. I stayed saving for a car and finally agreed with his reasoning. A few days later, though, I came over a military academy leaflet while clearing grass off the rear patio after mowing the yard. It was on the floor under a chair close to where my mother preferred to sit and sip wine. I waited until my dad arrived home to show him what I had discovered. I felt she was planning some sort of mad scheme. He went to see my mom with the booklet and asked her about it since he was somewhat irate but didn't jump to judgments. Dad said, "Honey, what's this?" Mom becomes white upon seeing the leaflet. Nothing. I had never seen it before. Dad: exactly? You know I wouldn't let you send Kegel to military school if you intended to try to send him. Mom broke her front at that and exclaimed, "He has to learn some discipline. He locks his door often, hence I am unable to even spank him anymore as he is too big. This is the only means I have left to chastise him for being a disobedient brat." Dad: Kegel stood up to you for your silly favoritism and did nothing wrong. Given you in the way you treat her and let her get away with stealing from her brother, our daughter is the brat if anything. And as far as I'm concerned, This conversation about sending Kegel to military school is closed. Should you try to send him, then help me. I will bring the hammer down on you whatever method I can. Mom. Well, I guess this entire family is just going to take away what little power I have left in this house then. Should I have nothing, I could as well be nothing. Dad. You and I both know you would much choose Keel over being nothing. Cut back on your theatrical behavior. Now a guy with his own money, Kegel is growing up. Mom left the room angrily then. Before school, the next morning, I watched her desperately attempting to fit something into the kitchen garbage can. I dug out what she was trying to hide while waiting for her to head out for work. She filled out the military school application totally in her hand. On it, both parents or legal guardians had to sign. The paper included 2 signatures. I understood Mom's, but the other seemed to be a poor attempt to copy Dad's. His sleek and sophisticated signature was something he took great satisfaction in. There is no way my mother could replicate it without seeming like fraud. She probably understood it once she was confronted and gave up attempting to send me away. Later I showed my dad the papers and kept them. Though he was furious, he let it go knowing she had done it already. Still, he filed the paperwork right in case. A few more months later, word leaked out that my mother was seeing an old high school ex-boyfriend. My dad filed for divorce. That was his last straw. Months later, after he acquired another house, I moved in with him. Pulling out the military school records my mom had created with his signature, he accelerated the divorce rather fast. And it wasn't only that, he also had evidence she created his signature on at least 1 credit card application and one other thing I don't remember, which made Mom worry about being arrested for fraud. She agreed to most of his requirements, so they proceeded really quickly through court. Dad didn't want the house, so Mom bought it. Nevertheless, she also insisted on alimony and child support since my sister, predictably, decided to remain living with her. For a decade of monthly payments, the judge granted my mother child support and a minimal alimony award. Alimony essentially paid my sister's allowance anyhow. Mom was really irate about that and vowed to bring him back to court, but for years he held the falsified signatures over her head to calm her. My sister threw out her mouth at me and smugly claimed Mom informed her she was a princess and the more deserved sibling, so explaining the reason I was leaving the house. Not caring anymore, I merely shook my head and advised her to consider what she wants. Then I went out the door, at last as free as a bird. My connection with my sister, who paid once weekly visits to Dad's residence, deteriorated until at last we stopped communicating completely for years. Mom's residence hardly appealed to me. She essentially turned my former room into a home office anyway. My ex-husband had an affair with my sister while we were married. He recently sent me an email, and it has been 6 years since we last spoke. About 15 years ago, while celebrating my 18th birthday, I, 33F, met my ex-husband Dan, 40M, in a restaurant. He was indeed mature, friendly, and quite nice. He made me feel unique and cherished. To put that in some perspective, my family was dysfunctional. My dad would occasionally disappear for months and my mom and dad used to quarrel often. He passed away at the birth of my sister Abby, 5-year-old. From Abby's birth, my mother was far more loving of Abby than of me. My mother virtually raised Abby as her baby. She always did her best as a mother and supported me, so I always felt something was lacking even though she hardly neglected me. I felt as though nothing was lacking in my life until Dan entered it. He helped me. He was kind. He would always get me things and drive me for great distances. In his company, I felt whole. 4 years of dating preceded our marriage. Though Dan advised me to get my master's degree and supported me in developing my profession, I wanted a family immediately away. Before we began considering having children seriously, he wanted us to be in a steady financial posture. The best man I could have asked for. 5 years in a happy marriage turned out to reveal that my husband was seeing Abby behind closed doors. When my husband concocted an excuse, that he would be out of town for a week, but stayed in town and reserved a hotel room where he and Abby could have sex, I found out about the affair. 6 months behind my back, this has been continuing. I was rather heartbroken. Growing close was Abby and me. I cherished and looked after her. She could do this to me. Dan and I got into argument following D-Day. Given my sister, who had just turned 19, I questioned how he could treat me. He claimed he no longer loved me, I gave him insufficient attention, and I was not the same girl he had feelings for. I found I was pregnant among this disarray, but I lost the baby from stress. He was on a weekend trip with my sister, not even bothered enough to see me at the hospital when I lost our child. I ought to have spotted the signals. Though Dan would occasionally look at Abby and she would always be sensitive with him, it still bothers me greatly. As usual, my mother supported Abby's side and advised me to simply live with it. Having no one else left, I wanted to die. I lost my husband, my child, my entire family. Then my buddy Tina, my rescuer, showed up. She invited me to accompany her when she was moving to another state. I nodded affirmatively. By then I was divorced, and we lived in a tiny town, so I would naturally run across my sister and ex. It took me some time to adjust to my new life in another state, but I came across some nice folks there that helped me mend some damage. I still find problems with trust. 1 year of relocation to the new house brought me Tony, 32M, my now husband. Though I was somewhat cautious and kept my distance, he proved to me that he loves me a great lot and is reliable. I nearly forgot about the life I had back in my hometown since I was so delighted with him. His parents were really friendly and giving folks. A year ago we were married and I am currently carrying our first kid. My ex, Dan, sent an email yesterday. It simply brought back every negative memory. I'm only copying his email here. He said he is somewhat depressed with my sister and misses me. He attempted to find me but couldn't. Unlike me, she is quite stupidity and doesn't give him any attention. Abby merely texted him happy birthday and neglected to even get him a cake. I used to prepare him one and celebrate birthdays for him. She also disrespects him, is often in the bar with her pals, and is rather nasty. She had also cheated on him 5 times before, he added. The last affair was with his cousin. Our mother lets go on without stopping. He is about to seek for a divorce, but lately he has been absent from me a lot. He wants us to attempt once more as a couple and to have a family exactly like previously. He most likely does not know that I am married and have a baby en route since I just have Instagram, which is private. The grass on his side looks somewhat brown instead of green, so I'm not sure whether I should pity him or just laugh. Update. I wanted to thank you to those of you who messaged and offered support. I have decided to be done with it and email him. Dan, I am sorry to learn you are hurting, but there is no way I could be with you. Indeed, I used to be the girl who would have taken you back in a heartbeat, but that girl is no more present. That girl passed the day I was having a miscarriage. You were somewhere shucking with my sister. You never answered when I phoned you. I live with a fantastic man that loves and values me. Our first child is also en route. I am starting this new phase of my life with someone I love and very care for. Please do not thus get in touch with me ever again. You took a decision. You chose my barely legal sister instead of me. Whether she respects you or choose on you, it makes no difference to me. Anyone like you does not deserve respect and loyalty regardless. I left my former life in my former town. You would be best off continuing and giving some introspection some thought. You are simply a very insecure man getting old and would benefit from having a young woman at your side. Goodbye. Update 2. The 3rd of March. Many of you have asked me what he said. He answered within 1 hour of my emailing him. He stated he would always wait for me since no matter what, I will always be his baby doll, and he was dumb enough to believe I would still wait for him. I gave a hard cring. He used to call me that, but these days it feels repulsive. My sister and mother sent emails as well. Just congratulating me. My mother expressed excitement about her becoming a grandmother. Saying she will be the cool aunt, my sister likewise followed the same. These individuals truly betrayed me and forgot how they treated me when I needed them. Having been reading your comments, I grieved for a long period since it seems like the man groomed both my sister and me. I feel absolutely foolish. Though she was mature enough to know it's immoral to have an affair with a married guy, especially someone who is your sister's husband, I know I shouldn't be angry with her. I filtered every one of them. Already 5 months pregnant. I don't need extra tension. God bless my spouse. He later drove me to ice cream and comforted me when I started to cry. I want to be past this. Update. I guess I could write a more detailed update because I cooled down now. I needed it, so thank you to everyone for your support. Like a locomotive, the email from my ex suddenly hit me. I could see all he has done to me flashing back. You folks really deserve a thorough update. As I indicated in my last post, he responded within an hour following the return email I gave him. 2 further emails from my sister and mother arrived a few hours later. They forwarded them to my old email account, which I barely use today. I strive to keep a low profile. I have no idea how they learned about my pregnancy. I have not uploaded my baby bump pictures on social media or made any announcements yet. I just follow friends on Instagram, but it terrifies me. I started bawling on the spot. Fortunately, Tony, my husband, was here. He held me then laid me on the couch. He is totally familiar with me. I never covered anything from him. I worried a little bit about my sisters and mom's finding of me. He comforted me knowing that I live hundreds of miles from them. We live on the other side of our nation, after all. To ease me, he brought me for ice cream. Funny, it took 2 ice cream cones to at last help me relax. I informed him about my worries and that my sister and mother could insist to see my baby, a girl. To be on the lookout for them, he claimed he would chat to his police officer uncle. He will fight for it even if they visit here and press themselves on me. He told me not to worry about my ex, he is going to discuss this with his friend, a lawyer. He cannot damage me anymore. Even now my husband joked that he would migrate countries should he have to. Finally, someone on my post advised me to let the daycare know about my mother and sister should they attempt to abduct my child. Not that we intend to send her to childcare. I decided I would quit my job and take care of my baby and concentrate on healing from giving birth even though I am working right now. This is my own choice. I do have some reasonable savings in my personal bank. When our little princess is somewhat older, I will return to work. My in-laws are very remarkable. Living nearby are my Mill and Phil. They both are decent people who could assist with my child. You should not worry as well. Apart from my in-laws, I have a decent support system as well. Basically, Tina and her friend Jenny adopted me. Funny. They constantly supported me and are truly nice individuals. Though I have no idea what the future holds, at least I am surrounded by some decent people I never knew growing up. I shall now take your leave and enjoy my spouse treating me. I will keep you folks informed should something major occur. Blocked are my mother, sister and ex-partners. Not one update has come since. Second story. My husband's nephew rested his hand on me while asleep. Tell anyone, this entire family will be destroyed. The godson and nephew of my husband is 17. For a month my husband received a job offer abroad. We live in a house, and my sister-in-law, husband's sister, advised me to stay with them in their guest room as I felt uneasy being alone in the house. Even with me coming from a shattered home without family to adore me, especially his oldest sister, 47, I love my husband's family, a large, loving family that took me in and accepted me with open hearts and arms. I am 32 and my hubby is 41. Living with my sister-in-law was great. Apart from missing my spouse, who I spoke with a few times a day, everything was going perfectly. Being a night owl, I stayed in the living room binge-watching House of the Dragon when everyone went to bed yesterday. I probably nodded out on the couch. Later on when I woke up, my nephew's hand was under my shirt. I shoved him away but he held my mouth and pulled me back on the couch. A few times he struck me hard, telling me to stop moving. I swung a cola glass I had on the coffee table against him. My sister-in-law came downstairs after hearing him grunting in agony. She began battering him and shoving him away. She asked him to visit the guest house, and she followed him most likely to check his head damage since he was bleeding. Later on, she returned and showed me to the bathroom. I had cut my hand with the glass and had peed myself. Later on she stayed with me in the room and handed me sleeping drugs. Today at midday I woke up. Everyone but my sister-in-law was away. Every bit of warmth has disappeared. She said she was quite let down by me. I used her son even though she invited me into her house. She saw everything. She knew the truth, I told her. She said she saw nothing and that nobody would have believed someone like me. She wondered whether breaking this family on my conscience would be on line with my values. She blocked my path when I wanted to depart since what would the family say? I vowed I wouldn't say anything, then started to cry and asked her to let me go. I'm home now and not sure what to do. My husband will be destroyed from this. His family is his pride and jewel in life. He adores them. Suppose he hates me for shattering his family and tarnishing their name. Worse, supposing he doesn't believe me. 3 weeks from now he will be home. By then most likely the black eye will have disappeared. Edit. Apologies. I messed his age. He will be turning 16 in a few months, he is 15. I produced poor arithmetic. Edit 2. I appreciate you answered. Apologies for not answering every query. I should say that lately I spoke with my husband. For him, the regular planned phone call before bed is, but I simply broke down crying and told him everything. FaceTimed me and saw my face. He never likes me to be home alone, hence he told me to prepare a suitcase and wait for his friend to come pick me up. After little more than a year of marriage, my husband and I have been living in this city, his hometown, for a few months. Here I know not many people. Still, he advised me to live with his friend and his family. Good people are those they are. Tomorrow he is flying back here. Thank you. Apologies once more for not being able to respond to everyone. Update. Hi everyone, this is a throwaway account. I got much of encouragement when I wrote here earlier. I owe 100% to the online community for which I followed the right course and informed my husband. If it were up to me and my own ideas and I would have just kept this private and tried to go on. I do not want to read all the disgusting and abusive DMs like the ones I received from my first article. Hence I will not respond any DMs. I would gladly respond to your comments here, but following this update I am removing this account as well. I would wish to respond to a couple inquiries. First one, a query on my most recent update. Why did my husband believe me without asking questions? Many conjectured that my spouse wasn't very astonished since he presumably knew something about his nephew. No, I asked him this. He simply believes me, not noticing the injuries on my face. I have never given him any grounds not to believe or trust me. Why would my spouse advise me to live with the family of his friend? Many asked why I wasn't independent enough to live on my own alone. To me this is a brand new town. Coming from a large city with people all around to go to a smaller village as living alone in a large house changed me greatly. I was uneasy, hence my husband advised me to live with his sister and get close to my new family. After what happened though, I returned home. The acts of his nephew stunned my husband, and to be honest, he had no idea what to anticipate from his parents or nephew anymore. He didn't want me alone as he was afraid they might hurt me. He insisted that I kept his family in dark about where I was also. He was just afraid. I apologize for also mistaking his age. Born November 06, he will turn 16 shortly. I made him 17 by doing the arithmetic wrong. The next day following my post, my husband arrived home late in the afternoon. Seeing him now makes me happier than it did years ago. He told his sister he was on his way when phoning her. He looked to have been crying when he returned home. He urged me to pursue charges, but only if I wanted. He questioned whether I wanted to do it. She tried to point the finger on me when he was at his sister's, but he advised her to cease the bullshit. If she truly loved her son, he questioned her why she wasn't more concerned about him, the way he progressed to overpowering a sleeping family member. He also wanted her to explain why she handed me sleeping drugs. About that, I have no idea why I grabbed them. I recently did. Since childhood I have sadly always followed those I considered to have control over me. She said she couldn't help me relax as I was having panic attacks. She still thought I came on to him though, and denied that her son had behaved in such manner. When my husband spoke with his nephew as well, he was disappointed to see that he showed almost any regret or affectivity at all. He never even offered an apology. I hit him. He said he was attempting to wake me awake as the couch wasn't comfortable. We have written a report. Not much more I could do. To be honest, I wanted it to be out there even if I don't see anything coming of it. The brother of my spouse called to shout at him. Starting with the smear campaign, they have already my spouse shared with them my side. I'm not sure the person they decide to believe. 6 siblings make up my husband's family. We will have to watch this develop. My spouse doesn't particularly want to damage his nephew, who is still a child. He feels he needs aid, but not the kind his parents are providing, enabling him. He also expressed the feeling that many of you have. This lad will do it once more most likely, and I wasn't first. He loves him very deeply, thus it hurts him. But he has to tell others what he is capable of doing to safeguard their families. Over past few days, my hubby has been quiet and aloof. About that, I had no idea what to do. Simply said, I felt somewhat ashamed. I wasn't sure if I should ask his pardon and apologize to him for souring his relationship with his beloved sister and her family. He looked shocked at me when I at last plucked the bravery to do it. He started to cry and admitted he was the one sorry. He saw himself at last providing the large family I had always dreamed of. He held me. I have nothing about my family. I sobbed in his arms. Right now, we are not sure what will happen. Our plans call for us returning to the large city. About my new employment, I have no idea what to do. After few months, I have to stop. Since I teach preschool, it should not be difficult for me to get a new job or retrieve my former one. Still thanks once more. I doubt I will be posting going forward. I simply want to move on and heal. Am I the asshole for laughing when my aunt told my stepmom that depression doesn't excuse sleeping with a married man? Sorry for the long title, I really had no idea what title to explain the situation. My first language is Spanish. Long story short, 2 years ago my father left my mother to go with his mistress whom I will call Anna, common name. My mother never had any idea about the infidelity. Anna knew that my father was married, she even went to the house with him to take his things. One day he simply told my mother that he is no longer in love with her and wants to be happy with Anna. I was there when everything happened. Anna was depressed, she had many scars on her legs and arms. I don't go to my father's house, it makes me uncomfortable to be around them for obvious reasons. Anna is overly nice and it's really uncomfortable. A few days ago it was my grandfather's birthday and the whole family was together, including Anna. I have an aunt who suffers from depression and other more heavy things like schizophrenia. She has tried to hurt herself many times. At one point in the night there was only my father, my aunt, Anna, another aunt and I in the living room. For some reason my aunt and Anna were talking about some serious things and at one point and began to say that depression made her do many things trying to feel fulfilled, that she could only overcome depression when she met my father and he saved her, that meeting him was the key to overcome her depression and now she's finally happy thanks to him. I know about that because Anna often tried to bond with me by telling me how much she suffered in her life and how my father saved her. She has always justified herself that she was depressed and was in a hard place in her life before my father saved her. It always makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't feel empathy for her no matter how sweet she is. Talking about how many times you try to kill yourself in front of my 8-year-old sister, it's not something normal. Anna has always tried to paint her relationship with my father as a fairy tale that began in a different way but that she doesn't regret anything because her world is perfect now. At that moment my aunt said something like, I tried to save myself by going to a psychologist, not by jumping on the dick of a married man. And then she began to say that depression made her want to jump off a bridge but not ruin a family. I just laughed. It was funny. My aunt may have her mind elsewhere all day but it was crazy to see her make such a sly comment. But when my father was taking me home Anna was crying and he scolded me for laughing at what my aunt said, saying that no one knows everything that Anna suffered. I know, she always talks about that. I didn't apologize, but now I think, was I really wrong to laugh? From my point of view, my aunt was right. Update 1, hello, some things happened over the weekend. My aunt came home, I live with my mother, and told my mom what happened. My mother hates my dad for obvious reasons, but still she's been really nice to him and tried to keep us out of all those problems they have. My mother is honestly a saint. My sister is an 8-year-old girl and she really hates Anna. Anna once tried to get along with my sister and told her about the time she wanted to commit suicide and how my dad saved her. After that my sister came home asking my mother if she had ever thought about committing suicide. That's not a question an 8-year-old girl should ask and my sister even asked me questions about suicide after that. I don't really know what else exactly Anna said to her but it definitely affected her as a little girl. It's not even something you should talk about with a girl of that age. My mother was furious and since that day she forbids my father to have my younger sister near Anna as she considers her a dangerous and unstable person around children. Since that day things have been really tense between my father and my mother. My little sister doesn't want to visit our father, so she is fine with this. My aunt told my mother that Anna talked about it again but this time in front of me. Apparently my father and Anna were totally forbidden to talk about these things in front of me too. I'm not a little kid but apparently that was the arrangement my mother made with my father when she set boundaries for them. My aunt told her what happened that day and I confessed to my mother that Anna and my father talk a lot about those suicide attempts in front of me, which is something I should have talked about before, but at that moment I didn't want problems and decided to just ignore them. I told my mom that for that reason I am not going to my father's house anymore and my mother got very upset with him. The next day she went to talk to my father. I don't know what they talked about, she just came back saying that Anna can't get close to us anymore. She told me that she can't forbid me from being near my father and that's my decision but Anna is extremely forbidden to set foot in the same place where I and my sister are. My paternal grandparents agreed and my aunts too, they knew about the situation with my younger sister. I haven't spoken to my father, but my cousin told me that my father argued with my grandfather. He often says that Anna is a good person and we don't understand the pain she suffered, so I guess he's upset with all of us now for our great lack of empathy, as he always says. I don't know. At least now I won't see them for a while. It was a boring update but that's what happened. Ha ha. Update 2. Hi. I wasn't planning to make another update but we've had a lot of problems with Anna, too many and I think now even my father has realized that she's crazy. I have stopped going to see my father and my father's parents stopped allowing him to go with Anna to their house since I am there a lot and my mother does not allow her to come near me or my sister. Anna began to have the strange behavior of starting to send me texts. First she apologized to me but insisted that my father misses me and my sister. I replied to her that my mother does not allow us to talk to her and she said that she is my father's partner, so we have to get used to her being around. She started to talk badly about my mother, saying that I'm too young to realize it but my mother is manipulating us and that's wrong because she's not allowing us to be a family. I'm young but I'm not dumb. I didn't answer her again and showed the messages to my mother who spoke to my father again. My father knew nothing about this and apparently had an argument with Anna about this since now my mother is planning to take away his last name from our name to end this shit show and protect us. I don't understand too much about this, but in my country you can go to court and take out your father's surname making him have no right over you anymore. I honestly believe that neither my sister nor I would have any problem with this, but I think my mother just said that to scare him. This is something I heard from my aunt, and I don't know how much of this is real, but my father has been staying at my grandparents' house. One of those nights Anna went to knock on the door looking for him just to argue. She and my father began to argue. Anna yelled at my dad that he couldn't leave her like that, but nothing else happened because my grandfather kicked her out. My aunt also told me that my father told her that Anna sends him messages like, "If you leave me I will kill myself. You can't leave me." So my father is afraid of leaving her and afraid of her. Less than 2 days ago I found out that my father had to leave work quickly because she sent him goodbye messages. Nothing happened to her, she just cut her arms as always. My aunt said that this is something that Anna has always done. Even when the affair started, she sent him messages saying that she was about to commit suicide so that my father would go to her. This is something that Anna also told me, but in a more romantic way. It always scared me. I have no contact with my father and I avoid him when he's at Grandpa's house, but as far as my aunt has told me, he doesn't know what to do since he misses us but is afraid to leave her and that she will kill herself. I feel bad for thinking this, but I'm really relieved to be hearing all this from afar. I'm so thankful that my mom forbade us to see her before all this happens, and honestly this is his karma, so I'm not going to get into this. My husband and I are on the brink of divorce, and we are desperately seeking advice. Can our marriage be saved? Throwaway account due to friends, family following the main account, omitting some personal information for sake of anonymity. I'm going to try and make a timeline of events in our relationship for context. TLDR at bottom. Met when we were 9, started dating at 12, mind you this was that middle school type of dating. He cheated on me when we were 15 or 16, at this point we were on again, off again, which continued until we were 17. I got a full ride to a university across the country for athletics and academics when I was 18. My first and only semester there, I hated. I hated the team and the coaches and I had no friends. He flew out to visit me and we got engaged at 18 years old. He flew back a little over a month later and we had a courthouse wedding. I came home after the semester finished. He was 18 and I was 19 when he joined a very difficult, prestigious branch of the military. He left for 3 months for training, which was difficult but we did fine. He came back for a few weeks and then left for a few more months for school for his particular job. During this time, I would later find out, he signed himself up on Bumble, and paid $50+ in upgrades for more swipes. He insists he never met anyone from it and no conversations that he had were ever anything more than introductions. He also, again, I would later find out a few years later, spent over $600 at a strip club. He says he was pressured by seniors to go and ended up paying for a VIP room, for one of his buddies because he got the room and then didn't have the money to pay for it, and my husband said his friend was going to get into trouble. That weekend, he would go up and down the coast going to various clubs and another strip club from what I've gathered. At 19, we moved states and got our first house together. At 20, he deployed. This would be a very difficult time in our lives, and even more difficult after he got home. He developed a pornography addiction while deployed. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor at 4 in the morning refreshing one of his social media accounts, which I could see his following numbers go up about every 5 minutes. All porn accounts. He pressured me for pictures and videos and I would feel guilty for not doing the things he wanted, and I felt like if I didn't he was just going to find someone else to do it for him. He came home 6 months later and we were okay, except I noticed after a few weeks that as soon as he came home from work he would practically beeline it to the bathroom and shower for 45+ minutes. Sometimes I would even go into the bathroom after and I could tell he dropped the bottle of lube on the ground and it was still slippery. Or I could see the ring on the counter from the bottom of the bottle. I did my best to ignore it, until one day I saw a charge on our account for $30 to someone with a very interesting name. I confronted him and he immediately looked away, took a deep breath, brushed his hand through his hair and sputtered out a quick excuse that it was his buddy's wife who bought them all lunch during work. I don't know why, but I said okay and left it at that. He got up a few minutes later saying he felt sick and went to lay down. I got a text from him an hour later saying he was sorry and that he developed a pornography addiction over deployment and he sent money to a girl for her premium Snapchat or something. He says he felt so guilty he didn't even look at anything and he deleted her right after he sent the money. I realized that the day this transaction took place, he had bought me flowers. He has never done that before, not even on any special occasions. From here on the dates get confusing for me. I don't remember what happened first or when or how far apart, but I'll do my best to include as much information as I remember. Sometime later, maybe weeks, maybe months, I woke up to a message from an old acquaintance on a certain social media site. I think we were still 20 or maybe 21. I don't remember what exactly she said, something along the lines of, "I just wanted you to know Hex said this to me." Or something like that. He had messaged her the night prior, whilst drinking at a friend's house down the road, that he loved and missed her. I wish so badly I could remember more, but for some reason I can't. I know she said something like, "You can't be saying that you're married." And he said something along the lines of, "I don't care." I screamed at him to wake up, but he was still drunk. I told him I wanted a divorce. I locked myself in the bathroom and hurt myself because I wanted to feel anything other than how I felt at that moment. I don't know how much time passed. When he opened the door, he said he didn't send those messages. He said that he left his phone plugged into the speaker and his friend was using it to play music. He said his friend must have seen the girl's story and messaged her trying to get nudes. He even pulled out his phone with proof, a text conversation between him and his friend confirming that the friend had messaged her and said he was sorry. I don't know why, but I believed him immediately. I remember having the most euphoric feeling of, I don't know what the word is, but whatever you feel when you let out a breath you've been holding and say, "Oh, thank God." I'm getting frustrated writing this because I'm realizing how much I'm forgetting and I feel like I'm missing something. At 21 I think, shit hit the fan. I think at this point I had gone through his phone several times and found internet history and links that he had clicked through one of his social media accounts to hundreds of different OnlyFans sites. One night I went through his entire dollar account history since 2018 and found the charge for the strip club and Bumble. He said the Bumble charge wasn't him, it was a senior who used his card because he had gotten frozen or something ridiculous like that. I of course believed him. I don't know why. I can't remember at what point I found out that he lied about messaging the girl on social media. I think it was after I had looked through his phone again and I found text messages between him and his friend that was the one who allegedly sent the messages. His friend said something like, "Bro, I can't even go to parties that your wife is at because she hates me lol," or something like that. But they both confirmed what I didn't want to believe. My husband had taken my phone, deleted the messages sent to me by the girl, and got his friend in on this elaborate story. I can't remember when I found out that he did in fact download and pay for upgrades on Bumble. I think I just knew at this point he was lying, and grilled him long enough that he relented. He said he never met anyone or anything, and he said during the conversation, "I only paid for the upgrade because no one would ever swipe for me." Or something like that. I can't remember at what point we went to Legal on Base and got information to file for divorce. I'd never seen him cry before besides one other time. After we got married, at the airport, he cried so hard and he wouldn't let me see. Just hugged me and buried my face in his chest so I wouldn't see. He said he didn't want to leave. But he cried constantly after I told him this was it and that I had an appointment and paperwork filled out to file for divorce. I'd never seen him like this before. Constantly saying he was sorry, deleting every social media account he'd ever owned. Crying at the drop of a pin. Saying things like he will never marry again, I could have everything in our savings, he'd pay for me to finish college if that's what I wanted. I relented and we went to marriage counseling. He stepped up a lot. He was never on his phone anymore. Would keep his phone unlocked and face up on the table. Told me I could go through it any time I asked. Promised to stop watching porn. He even started cleaning the house and making dinner before I got home from work. He stopped drinking with his friends. It was a complete 180. For a while. The issues started to arise when every little thing would trigger a panic attack. He couldn't hang out with his friends without me freaking out. He began drinking with his friends again maybe a few weeks later. One night he wasn't home by the time he told me he would be and I just broke. I ended up in the hospital and it was just the start of this toxic cycle. He would do something that would trigger me. Whether it be drinking with his friends or the occasional YouTube short I would see in his watch history of a half-naked woman with her tits out and bouncing up and down. I would scream at him and berate him and degrade him because I wanted him to feel exactly how I felt. I think marriage counseling eventually helped a lot. After the hospital I finally got my own therapist. She was my best friend. I still text her to this day. I didn't have any friends where we lived. He worked with his friends every day and every weekend they would all party. I didn't have anyone. My friends and family were back home. I'm shy and have really bad social anxiety and have always had trouble making friends because I can't seem to ever open my mouth when there's more than 3 people in the room. Whenever he would leave to go anywhere, I felt so alone. I think at 22 our marriage really started improving again. We went on vacation together and were able to work through a lot of issues and we were able to communicate things we were feeling and it was amazing. We both felt so heard and we were able to find happy mediums on issues and relayed boundaries that each of us respected. I was 23 when I moved home a few months before his contract ended. He tied up his loose ends on the house and work and he moved back home with me. He tried working a night shift blue-collar job, making good money, even more than he made in the military. But he hated it. He hated everything about it. He missed his friends and his job. His friends were his family. This was the first time I'd ever seen him truly depressed. 5 months later he joined a different branch of the military. I didn't want him to. I wanted him to stay and have a normal life with me. I wanted to work normal jobs and have a family. He doesn't. He said he doesn't even want a family. I had started nursing school and my best friend whom I hardly ever got to see had a baby. I finally had a group of friends and family I was able to hang out with every week. He left and got stationed in a different state, but only about 600 miles away this time. Far, but drivable. He came home for a visit after only a week of being there. We were doing good at this point, texting and calling a lot. A little over a month ago he left to go across the country for a 6-week exercise in the desert. He didn't have his phone for most of it, but he was able to text me once over a week ago. He didn't text again after that, until I messaged him letting him know that a pet of mine had died. He replied immediately. I've realized that he has had his phone, but just hasn't been talking to me. Yesterday, he texted me in the morning letting me know that he was going to spend an upcoming holiday with an old military friend from his previous branch, and then the holiday after that he wanted to go see his extended family in a different state. We've talked a lot since then, not about anything good. I've asked why he's pushing me away and he said he's focusing on his goals. I said I felt like I was being put on the back burner until he was ready to acknowledge me and our marriage, and I tried to tell him he didn't have to be alone and that I would support him. He said, "You can't though. You say you can, but you didn't support college or the CIA, so I kinda felt I should just do this alone and get rid of some of the negativity." And I realized he was right. He brought up college when we were about 21, maybe 22, and I actually scoffed at him because I didn't realize he was being serious. I didn't believe he could do something like that. He barely graduated high school. He went to 4 different high schools total, never getting above a 1.5 GPA. I tried doing his homework to keep him afloat, but he didn't care. I even got him enrolled in the same online academy that I attended, due to public school not fitting around my athletic schedule, and I had to do every class and every assignment for him because he would never do them. He ended up graduating from what you would call an alternative high school. After telling me he wanted to go to college, he then told me he was going to join the CIA. This was just unfathomable to me. I didn't know what to do because he wanted my support, but I also didn't want to lie to him and tell him I believed in him. I guess I still don't. And I feel awful, and I can't imagine the feeling of your spouse not supporting you unconditionally. I don't know how to support him in something I just don't think he can do. And now we're here. Neither of us want a divorce. Both of us know our relationship hasn't been the best. We both don't know what to do. I would feel so lost and empty without him. I've known him for more than half of my life. Our personalities are formed around each other. We talk the same, we have the same mannerisms. We experienced growing up together and becoming adults together. I just want to add that these experiences I've listed were the worst times. We've had amazing experiences together. We have so much fucking fun together. He makes me laugh more than anyone else can. He knows everything about me and has been there for every important moment in my life. I'm absolutely terrified of the future. I'm scared to tell my family if we get a divorce. I don't want to be another statistic. I know we got married young. I know we are a military family. I know that most of these marriages ended in divorce, but I really fucking thought we were different. I don't want to start over. I'm almost 24 and I know that's still considered young, but I've known him for 14 years. I thought we would have started thinking about having a family together by now. He just wants to focus on his career and says he doesn't think he even wants a family. I don't know what to do anymore. If you're still here, thanks for reading. I apologize if I'm all over the place. I haven't ever shared all this with anyone. I'm embarrassed of my situation and feel at a loss at what to do anymore. I'm really nervous to read any replies because I think I know what they're all going to say. TLDR, married young, he's in the military, history of infidelity on his part, verbal abuse on my part, and lack of support. Have had successful marriage counseling in the past, but we're at the point where we feel like we want different things, but both of us still love each other and don't want a divorce. Neither of us know what to do. Update 1. After over 1,000 people castigating me in the comment section, I wanted to sort of give an update and answer a few questions. First off, yes, I can in fact type like a motherfucker. I had every intention of creating this post with anonymity, which obviously went down the drain as soon as I started typing. I didn't think this would get more than a couple thousand views and a handful of comments. I typed out every ignominious detail because I needed to see for myself everything in one spot. Someone said I must be exhausting to be around if I tell my friends and family all this. Well, you'll be happy to know that no one knows. I have never told any of my friends and family even a percentage of what has happened. That's why I ended up writing an epic. I wanted someone to know everything and tell me what to do because my brain has become this convoluted, the rose-colored type of convoluted, mess of, I don't even know. I have made my husband out to be this strong, loving, endearing, charismatic provider. And I know why. I've spent my entire life wanting to be the fucking best at everything. My dad's favorite thing he used to say to me every day after practice was second place is just the first loser. And I fucking held on to that. I was the best. I was the best at school. I ranked #1 out of my high school class of over 700 people. I have hundreds of medals and trophies. I did take second place at nationals one year, even though that doesn't feel like an accomplishment to me. I know it should be. But after dropping out of college and leaving behind a full-ride athletic and academic scholarship, I wanted it to be worth something. I never told anyone I left because I hated it and couldn't deal with it. I told everyone I got married and he joined the Marine Corps and I wanted to support him. I didn't want anyone to realize that I couldn't hack it. I wanted it to be worth it. And if I had marriage problems or if I got divorced, it would have just been for nothing. I would have lost again. And I can't lose. I grew up hiding in my closet hearing my dad scream at the top of his lungs at my older siblings because they averaged C's and D's in school. I knew what losing would get you. And I would not lose. My mom cheated on my dad when I was a kid. I remember waking up one morning to them screaming on the front lawn, my mom trying to get into her car to go to work and my dad grabbed her arm and ripped her out of the car. They don't know that I saw that. They worked through it if that's what you want to call it. I thought that was what you were supposed to do. I thought that marriage was supposed to be hard and you were supposed to put every ounce of yourself into fixing your ups and downs. Many have asked if I want to live the rest of my life like this. Of course I don't. Who the fuck would want that? Why did I stay even after the first time? Well, starving people will eat anything. I have actually read every single comment, even the hurtful ones. God damn, you guys are fucking assholes, and I needed it. I fucking needed over 1,000 people telling me I'm a blind idiot to realize that marriage isn't supposed to be like this. And that I deserve better. Because I fucking do. I do fucking deserve better. And for all those saying I'm not going to leave because I haven't yet. I will fucking prove you wrong. I'm not going back anymore. I'm not going to fucking settle. I had heard the phrase sunk cost fallacy, but I didn't know what it meant. I do now. Thank you to everyone. Even the ones who believe this post was a creative writing assignment. It gave me a laugh realizing that my life and my marriage has been so bad, that it's unbelievable. Last side note, yes, I did comment with my main account a few times. It doesn't even matter anymore. And feel free to shoot me a message and tell me I got this, because I'm going to fucking need it. I feel like I've been rug pulled near the edge of a cliff and I can't find my footing. I don't know where the ground is and when it will come. But I know wherever I land it will be better than where I am currently. Update 2. Hi everyone, it's been almost a year. I can't believe it's been almost an entire year. I don't think I've ever made an update like this before, so hopefully I do it right and it's not removed. I meant to update sooner, I really did. But I have been busy living my life to the fullest extent possible. I can honestly say I didn't even think it was possible to enjoy life this much. I have never experienced happiness like this. I'm honestly having a hard time putting it into words how amazing my life has become. I filed for divorce probably within 48 hours of making that post. Papers were signed a month later, divorce was finalized 2 months after that. It was completely uncontested, we shared no assets, no children, thank God. It was actually a lot easier than I expected it to be. Honestly, the hardest part was telling my family, especially my mom. Everyone loved him so much because I, unfortunately, made him out to be so perfect. It was pretty much a slap to the face for her to find out. I felt awful. She cried for days. But she was so supportive of me. Everyone was so damn supportive of me. I turned 25 soon. I decided to get my nurse practitioner's license, so that's the track I'm on right now. I've made an incredible amount of friends this year. If I'm not working, I'm out having fun. I'm always doing something fun every day. I'll try to reply to any comments but I'm so busy these days. I have truly begun to find myself. And I'm fucking awesome. I am capable of so much. And I am brave. I am so brave. I did make one special friend from my original post, Bethany200300. Thanks to you and my best friend Katie, if you guys are reading this. Thank you for keeping me accountable and loving me unconditionally. I really didn't realize what a horrendous situation I was in. At least, not until after I made that initial post and received so many eye-opening comments. Lots of people were right though, I did already know the answer to my question. It's actually kind of weird thinking about it. It doesn't even feel real. Whenever I try to think about my life over the last couple of years, I can hardly remember anything. It's almost like I'm trying to recall a story that someone else told me. Anything that I do remember, I recall almost like I was a spectator, or an invisible third person in the room. And I just think this poor girl and what she's going through, I can't even imagine how awful. It just doesn't even feel like it was me. My real life started as soon as he was gone. We don't speak anymore. We haven't really spoken much since December. One of the last interactions we had, he was upset about the divorce and regretted it, and then he proceeded to threaten that he would murder anybody that I dated in the future. Yes, it's documented to the best of my ability. I don't think he would ever actually do anything like that. He hasn't even been back in the state this year. I think he's too busy. Last I heard through the grapevine, he got drunk, had a one-night stand and got some girl pregnant. She wants to keep the baby. He doesn't. I think she even took a brick to his car and smashed the shit out of it. If I could give him one last piece of advice, it would be to start a savings account for this poor kid's future therapy bills. And to ask him if he ever realized that almost all of his monumental life mistakes have been committed under the influence of alcohol. But alas, it isn't my problem. He will never hear from me again. And I can say that with complete happiness and confidence. To everyone who said I wouldn't do it and that I wasn't capable of leaving, fuck you and thank you. I did leave. I didn't walk, I ran. I fucking sprinted. And I didn't look back. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me save my life. To anyone who may be going through something similar. You can do it, I believe in you. If I can do it, you can too. The other side is brighter than you could ever imagine. My best friends and wife forgot my big moment, and now I'm struggling to cope with the betrayal. Pretext: I completely understand there are much greater tragedies out there than what I'm about to describe. Need to write this out and appreciate any feedback or strategies. Myself, my wife and friends from college, including best friend and his wife, have been doing a college football pick'em league for the last 12 years. It's for fun, but I'd say most everyone takes it somewhat seriously. Since we've had the league, different people won, but for 6 years in a row one particular guy kept winning. Each year, we have a big tailgate party at a game where the winner of the previous year is honored with a speech and trophy. Last year, we even arranged for a surprise cameo to be played at the tailgate for the guy who won his 6th in a row. I broke his streak last year and won the league, but I was also the person who typically got the trophy and arranged the cameo or some of the other cool things we've done. So yesterday was our big tailgate, and it was my chance at being recognized as the person who won the previous year. A few hours in, my wife had a few drinks and said, "I don't even know what we're doing this year for. Person who won 6 years in a row." Then I said that actually I had won and her whole face changed. Our friend standing next to her turned white as a ghost. First they laughed, then said, "No, wait, it was you." I realized that until that moment it hadn't occurred to them, or anyone, to do anything. There was no trophy, speech, anything. My best friend quickly gets told by my wife that they forgot to do something and says nothing. Can't make eye contact, gets worse for me. After it sets in, I'm in the bathroom an hour later. I walk out and some people start clapping, because my wife had awkwardly arranged for the crowd at the party to do something. It's worse, because the guy who won 6 years in a row and had been a recipient of some cool stuff is laughing hysterically that everyone forgot to do anything. I'm just sad. I don't really want to talk to my wife. She gave me a very short apology this morning and offered sex to cheer me up. Made it worse? Drove 6 hours home crying here and there, wondering how a group of people I love and care about would drop the ball. Sent a text out to some saying how shitty it was to be forgotten. Sucks. I'm sure tomorrow I'll be less sad. Relevant comments. Comment 1, you're the planner. You're the one that keeps people together and makes sure no one or thing is forgotten. So when you don't do all the work, no one else does. It's really crappy they forgot to celebrate your win. You deserved a hurrah and they let you down. Really sorry, OP. Congrats. Comment 2, they did drop the ball, and then handled it really inappropriately. Sincere apologies were needed ASAP and then making it up to you. I'd truly join another league just to take your mind off it and detach a little from that scene. Even if they don't do celebrations, you're the planner of the group that still isn't cool. I hate football, but this got me worked up. Comment 3, everyone likes to accept rewards and praise, but not everyone likes to return the favor. OP went out of their way to make sure whoever won had a good time and felt special, for 6 years, and got nothing in return when it was his time to shine. And to top it off, his wife is trying to downplay it and act like he's overreacting. Feels bad. Least they could do is apologize, especially the MF who laughed after OP is the one who made his win special in the first place. Comment 4, Next time your wife is upset, offer her sex to cheer her up. Comment 5. This isn't stupid at all. You're validated in feeling how you do, and it's shitty as fuck that your friends and wife didn't recognize how important this was to you. I totally get it. It isn't about fantasy football. It's the pretense of the entire situation. Honestly, if it were me, I would tell my friends via phone call or face to face, not text, and tell them how it made you feel unappreciated as a member of the friend group, as well as how it hurt how they reacted after realizing you were the winner, not because it was over a game of fantasy football, but because this is clearly something you all put effort and emphasis into for multiple years, and there's no excuse for just brushing you off. I would also tell your wife how it made you feel with offering sex. Sex isn't something to be rewarded or withheld, and that set off smoke alarm bells for me personally. You deserve to be surrounded by people who appreciate you the same way you do for them. This isn't something to accept. It's important that you say something. I know it's uncomfy, but it's worth it. Sending you love, OP. Thank you very much, really. I teared up that anyone felt sympathetic. I'm in my house and feel like I'm on an island by myself. Update. It's tomorrow, after a night where I slept in the guest bedroom. Late last night I got an email apology from the girl who turned white when she found out. My wife woke up at 6 to get ready for work, and I was up helping kids get ready for school. She wanted to talk, and asked if I could talk also. I was half awake and didn't have any thoughts put together. The first thing she says is that I need to keep perspective. She said that it's not as if she cheated on me, she forgot something big, but there are much worse things that could have happened. I didn't respond. She asked how long she was going to be punished for this, and I just responded by saying it wasn't all about her. She is visibly frustrated and I'm too afraid to say something that will ignite her. I feel like she's desperate for me to say anything. I realize she's not comforting me or trying to understand. She wants full resolution before we have to take kids trick or treating tonight. That's it for now. She texted good morning, and I haven't responded. Relevant comments. Comment 1. When the planner doesn't plan, shit doesn't get done. I am sorry that your lame-ass friends didn't treat you well by remembering to celebrate your win. I'm even more sorry that none of them had the guts to come clean and apologize in front of the group for being such a shitty friend. And finally, to the guy that laughed, and who no one shut down when he was, please accept my two-finger salute over the internet. Now that I've established that I'm firmly on your side, I ask you, what do you want to have happen now? Think long and hard about what it is that you want. Yes, this whole fantasy football thing is shitty, but what sort of friends are these guys outside of this situation? Would you call them if you needed help moving, and would they come? If you suffered a real tragedy, would any of them be another shoulder to cry on? If you have kids, or were to have kids in the future, would you invite these people to be a part of your child's life? If these people are merely the college fantasy football bros, then maybe you need to consider letting them all go. You've devoted considerable time and effort, and maybe money, into making these events fun for them, but when the time came for them to return the favor, they didn't care enough to get the job done. I don't blame them for not being more sincere in their apologies on the day this all went down. By your account, they were all caught flat-footed, and it's hard for most of us to admit our mistakes and apologize properly when we're still processing what an asshole we've been. Have any of them reached out since? Only you can decide how much these people mean to you and whether you want them in your life going forward. If I were you, I would write a huge screed about everything I'd done for the group over the past years, trying to make this event a yearly spectacle. I wouldn't cuss or throw around insults, but I would make it very clear to everyone that this event is so much fun every year because of my hard work. Then I'd end it with how disappointed I was that none of them saw fit to return the favor when I was the winner. I would absolutely point out that the previous winner laughed and was a complete jerk, and that it was shitty of them not to shut that noise down, but I'm petty like that. Maybe you're not that petty. I'd fire this off into the group chat, or whatever you guys use to communicate, and see what happens. Maybe you'll get a ton of heartfelt apologies, and they'll plan an extravaganza in your honor, and all will be well. Or maybe you'll get back a bunch of hate, and you'll see their true colors. Either way, you'll have your answer as to what sort of friends they really are. Once you've sorted the friends situation, you'll need to sort things with your wife. I have a lot of questions for her, and I imagine you do too. Why didn't she organize something to celebrate your win, for starters? The wife might be something that requires marriage counseling, but only you two can determine that. OP. I don't know. I don't want anything. As of this morning, I'm just wanting to not have this tension with my wife. But I'm kinda stuck on feeling let down, and she's supposed to be the person that doesn't do that. Comment 2. Is your wife always as shitty as she seems here? OP. No, she's great, and a wonderful partner. But one major part of her personality is that she hates any feeling of having done something wrong. It's like she becomes a different person. Comment 3. So, bad sex and a weak apology is how she makes up for it. Comment 4. And then getting upset at OP for feeling hurt and making it about herself. I'm leaving my boyfriend after 2 years together because of his prenup demands. Why I chose to walk away from a relationship that felt one-sided. I'm 34F, breaking up with my boyfriend, 34M, because of a prenup. I've been with my boyfriend for about 2 years. Everything is going well and we love each other. We've been discussing marriage and he mentioned he would not marry me without a prenup. We discussed this in detail, and I did not like what he proposed. His family owns a lot of property, land, and has lots of savings. After marriage, he wants me to move into one of the houses his parents own. I told him I'm uncomfortable building a life and a family in a house I have no ownership in, and he didn't understand. I told him I'd prefer to rent a place together, or we can live temporarily in one of his parents' houses and look at property together, but he refused. He said he liked the houses his parents and he already owned. He said he would not buy other property. He said he would not sell any of his property to buy one with me. He told me if I wanted to own property, I could save up money by living in one of these properties and invest in one myself. Problem is, he would be entitled to half if we divorced since my purchase would happen after marriage. He told me I could pay his parents' rent if I feel like I don't belong on the property. He told me I could buy half of the house we live in from his parents. Problem is, I don't like the houses that him or his parents own. They also have a lot of stuff and I feel like there's no space for me. I want to look at houses, I want to pick the place I live in, and I want to do it with my partner. I've made this clear to him over and over, but he won't budge. He earns more than me, and he has more assets than me for sure. He made it clear he was afraid I was a gold digger, and he wanted to protect himself and his family's assets from me, which I can understand. This whole thing has made me feel very weird. This topic has come up before, and it has always made me feel very small. It makes me feel like all he cares about are his assets. It makes me feel like he wants me as long as I fit into the life he already built and doesn't care to build one with me. It makes me feel like a gold digger. He has enough money to retire right now and live comfortably. I don't. He basically told me that whatever money he earns now, he can spend, so he won't be investing in too much anymore. He expects our earnings and our savings after marriage to be split. Which I feel off about. I'm sure this is normal for some people. I'm sure other people would be happy to be with someone who was well off. I am not. I want someone beside me building a life with me, not someone who has built a life with his parents and wants me as long as I behave and fits into his life, which is how he's been making me feel. So I'm leaving him. I welcome opinions on this. But yeah, it's been too long that this has made me feel off about our relationship. I'm protecting my peace and leaving him with all his houses and money. TLDR, BF and I are talking about marriage. Boyfriend and his family are well off. He wants me to live in a house I don't own, and doesn't want to look at houses with me. Wants half of post-prenup assets. So I'm leaving? Relevant comments. OP adds context to the prenup talk during their relationship. No. He mentioned prenups very early, and I would keep asking him about the details, but he would keep it very vague, and assure me we would work it out when the time came. I never asked him about his assets, and I never actually knew how much assets his family had. The only things I knew were from some of his one-off comments about certain assets. If he mentioned this tenant or that tenant, or this thing they have to repair, etc., etc. I had also initiated these conversations. He mentioned wanting to live with me and work towards marriage. I figured then that time had come. This is when I sat him down and asked him what he expected from me, what he wanted, and to clarify the conditions of any prenups he wanted to propose. He still tried to dodge my inquiry. It took so long for me to pull this information out of him. I guess I did wait 2 years, but marriage talks seemed like the right time to push him to discuss it. Update. So many things have happened. This is a bit of a rant, and I know I'm missing parts, but I'll try to cover the important bits. Before I start, here's some important context. I have a stable and rewarding career, and though I don't earn as much as him, I am very happy with what I can afford. My parents have always taught me that women should be independent, and I've taken that to heart. I live below my means, which has allowed me to put aside money for savings and investments. A lot of comments have mentioned that I should take the free rent and that it would somehow set me forward in life, but for me, giving up my sense of autonomy and control over my home, my safe space, is not worth the potential savings. I lived with my parents and saved aggressively until I was 30. So I am lucky enough to be in a position where I can comfortably afford rent or a mortgage by myself. Plus, he expected the living situation to be permanent. I would not move into a house owned by someone else just to save on rent. Would it be nice to save $2,000 a month? Sure. But most people pay rent, and I am not an exception. If I really wanted that, I could move back in with my parents. But again, autonomy is very important to me. Also, if he's this stubborn now, I don't see how this situation could be improved later after I already moved in. I could also counter the prenup and make it so all my accumulated assets stay mine, or put in a clause that I'll be compensated for any children we have, or put that I'd get alimony or at least have a roof over my head in case we divorce. But for me, that feels overly transactional. It also gives me the vibes that I'm going to be living with a roommate who I sleep with and might have babies with, not a partner. I prefer to feel like we're in it together. He can keep what was his, but I want to build up what is ours. Also, if everything is completely split, it'll open up a new can of worms. How will our expenses be split if I'm working and he's just chilling? What happens when we have children? He has money saved for them, but will I get a say in how we spend that money? I know these can be worked out, but this is not the type of marriage I want. I can't predict everything that will happen, and I don't think I can capture it in a contract. And it's already been so heartbreaking for me, I don't want to go through more. Anyways, yada yada yada. I'll just say that it felt like I was being stripped of my autonomy, stonewalled, and treated like a hostile. Okay, on to updates. So I told him I needed to end this relationship. I appreciated and truly enjoyed my time with him, but our financial values and the preferred married lifestyle just don't match. It was a quick and easy conversation tbh. I expected the breakup to be a bit of a process, not a one and done thing, since our lives overlap a lot. I'm also in contact with a lot of his family, so OFC, during this whole time, a lot of them got involved. But blah blah. Not super relevant to updates. Talk with his parents. Okay, I love his parents. I had a great relationship with them. I would go over to their house, we would have food, chat, watch TV, sometimes I would go to the parties they host without my ex if he was busy. A few days after my talk with my ex, I went over to say goodbye. I didn't know if the prenup was family enforced or not, so I kept it very general and mainly focused on how the situation made me feel and what I was looking for in a relationship. His parents were shocked when I told them why I was leaving. I'm going to bullet point the rest. His parents really want grandbabies. However, my ex's younger brother and SIL do not want kids. They were so happy when I came into their lives and she found out I wanted kids. His parents had created their wealth together, with his dad being the major breadwinner for most of the relationship. His mom was shocked at what he was offering me, saying these aren't the values he was raised with. She had been effectively retired since almost 15 years ago and she said ex's dad never made her feel uncomfortable because of the difference in earning potential. They told me that they built their assets for themselves and their children. They said that includes whoever their children decided to share their lives with. They have many properties. However, they also have enough investments that they can live off of those. They told me their plan was to sign over a house of our choosing as a wedding gift, or sell a house and give us cash so we could buy a house we both wanted. As they got older, they planned to evenly divide their properties between my ex and his brother, since they wouldn't want to manage the properties anymore, and live off investments. Ex's mom said she would have made sure my name was on my ex's portion, especially since we were wanting kids. They mentioned investments will go directly into funds for grandkids after their passing. Maybe this is what my ex was referring to when he said his children would be set. Bit morbid though. Ex's mom told me that the mother of her grandbabies would be taken care of, and she wanted us to be on equal footing while raising a family. TBH, this conversation was kind of like a weight off my chest. I always loved his family and never felt excluded, but the prenup talks left me confused and hurt. What they said fit with what I knew from my ex and them before. I'd be lying if I said I didn't start imagining this life I talked to my ex again. I'll bullet point this too. Basically, he told me, his dad had joked before about how he hoped him and his brother would not find gold diggers, and that's where that comment came from. He felt responsibility to protect his parents' assets, since he didn't feel entitled to them. So by extension, I wasn't entitled either. In his culture, sons carry on the family line, so he felt he had to keep his assets in the family line, which I'm not part of, but any sons we had would be. Most of the assets he's worried about are under his parents' name, and he had never asked for their opinion on what to do. He just did what he thought he should be. He also said he isn't that well off, and that his assets shouldn't come between us. This is still confusing to me. Isn't this whole thing because he was well off, and wanted to hold on to what he had and not create a shared lifestyle? I think maybe he meant he didn't own much, and most things actually were under his parents' name. He felt he was punching above his weight with me, and was scared I would leave him. He was afraid I was with him because of his finances, since that was the only thing he had more of, whereas he said I am intelligent, hardworking, beautiful, blah blah. He was scared about moving forward with the relationship, but instead of communicating, he became defensive. To me, it seems like he said and did things because he was feeling deeply insecure. He had made a couple passing comments before about me being more beautiful than him, or how I'm more hardworking, etc., but I had always taken them as compliments, not self-deprecating comments towards himself. He's such a caring, funny, and intelligent person, just in a different way than me. Also, I know he's not as confident as he comes across, but I had no idea that his insecurities ran this deep. He also apologized over and over about how he didn't mean to make me feel like an outsider to him and his parents, and insisted that he wanted to share a life with me. He said his insecurities and fear got the best of him, and he didn't handle it well. He had taken advantage of my patience and lashed out because he felt inadequate and scared. It broke my heart, because I think all this could have been avoided. We've been through this song and dance before many times, where he would feel some sort of way, then act out as he's processing it. Until now, I always stay through it and we move on. But it's never gone on for so long. But I guess the issues we've faced before were smaller compared to mapping out our whole lives. I've pushed him to seek individual counseling and we've attended couples counseling together, but I can't force him to sit and identify his emotions or employ the tools we were taught. The prenup conversation happened over a long period of time. He had so many chances to pump the brakes and reflect on what he was saying, and simply just listen to me. But he didn't. He then sat in front of me saying that everything he said before was not what he meant. He said he would be happy to take care of me and our future kids, we could buy a house together, or rent if I wanted to, because now he wasn't scared about creating a life together. Completely opposite to everything he had been saying. But how unsettling is it that he seems so completely comfortable and confident in the hurtful words he previously said, and was okay with placing me in a very unequal position in the relationship. Despite me continuously trying to articulate what I wanted, and how he was making me feel, he didn't even consider my side. Over months. I know I have a good deal, with what his parents are offering, and I know him and I get along super well. But I'm not marrying his parents. I can't have his mom with us during every argument or life decision we take. Thinking back, I can count on one hand where we've run into issues, and he was able to address it without acting up. He's such a nice guy, but I can't be his garbage bin every time he needs to sort out his feelings. It's already worn me down. He's a grown man, he's intelligent and intuitive, he's had 2 years to learn how to communicate with me, and he's not. I honestly can't tell if what he said to me is genuine, or coming from his parents, or coming from a fear of losing me. I could give him the benefit of the doubt again, and move forward with the relationship, as I've done in the past, but I'm tired. I think this is a fixable problem, but I also have not seen any improvement since we started dating. If anything, this prolonged experience has made me feel it's gotten worse. I will not make the mistake of investing in a man because of what he could be instead of who he is. If the last few months are a testament to how he handles stressful situations, I can only take things as they are, and assume they won't change. This whole thing has left me sour. I don't need too much, but I do expect to be treated with love and support, even during times of disagreement. I cannot just forget the feelings and words I've felt and heard over the last couple of months. I can't just unhear and unknow that he is afraid I'm a gold digger. That was just one of many comments that really hurt me. I think life will have a lot more ups and downs, and I cannot imagine what kind of difficulties we will face if this is how we communicate, even after identifying it and working on it in therapy. For these reasons, I'm still choosing to walk away. Very diff from leaving because of a prenup, but it is leaving nonetheless. And TBH, this hurts more. I know it will hurt for a while, but I pray I'll be avoiding heartache and complications in the future. Who knows? If it was meant to be, maybe we'll find our way back. For now, I've told him and his family I need space and time. I know that it seems like I'm giving up a lot, but OFC there are things I can't put in a post. I actually wrote the above quite early. But I didn't post because it didn't feel like it was over. But now after this time, I know it is. It's been tough, and it's only been a couple months, but I'm sure I made the right call. It's tough watching everyone coupled up and having children, but it is what it is. I'm proud of myself for leaving and I'm slowly healing. Thank you everyone for your comments and DMs. Sorry I couldn't get back to everyone, but I appreciate you all. My entitled sister abandoned her 3 children, so I raised them. Years later, they offer me money as a thank you, but she demands it. Hello, I am 48F, and my younger sister, Diana, is 46F. Diana and I never got along well as youngsters. She was always snobbish and unpleasant to me, so we split up as soon as we graduated high school. I elected to continue my education, whilst she preferred to live with her boyfriend at the moment. It was lucky that her lover was wealthy, as our parents could never have afforded the rent for her to live alone. However, she made it abundantly obvious to our parents that she was unconcerned about their opinions on her life and would do whatever she wanted. So my parents never tried to stop her and instead let her go free. Diana had twin girls at 20 and a boy at 21 while living with her lover. My parents were pleased for her, but also anxious because she now had many responsibilities and no work. She was wholly dependent on her boyfriend's money to support her lifestyle. Diana never married her partner, which I believe was a mistake because she would have been entitled to alimony if they split up. They had to part ways after Diana discovered that he had been cheating on her. Thankfully, he provided the child support she was entitled to, but he chose not to be a father and signed away his parental rights. The girls were 3 years old at the time, but my nephew was only 2. After that, my sister was fully on her own and required all of the assistance she could get to maintain herself. Despite our sour relationship, I chose to assist her, primarily owing to pressure from our parents. At the time, I made a respectable living, but it wasn't enough to sustain all 4 of them. However, my parents and I gave a tiny bit of money each month, and they were able to make ends meet. She struggled for the first several months because she lacked a degree and work experience. She had to start at the bottom and work her way up, which forced her to dedicate a significant amount of time to her employment in order to grow rapidly. But this was difficult because she also had to consider her children, and she couldn't simply leave them at home. Hiring a babysitter was a possibility, but it was prohibitively expensive, so she was forced to rely on me or her friends. Our parents were also working and contributing financially to aid her, so they were unable to stay at home with the children. I was in the same predicament. She didn't have any friends who would take on the duty of minding her children while she worked because they all had their own lives and occupations. As a result, she was limited to minimum wage positions that allowed her to work flexible hours and return home quickly. This allowed her to avoid paying the babysitter to stay with her children for an extended period of time, which would have been prohibitively expensive. This condition persisted for a few years, and I believe Diana began to despise her own children because she saw them as hurdles to her success. She said that they were the only things preventing her from moving forward. I would pay her a visit on occasion, not for her sake, but for the sake of the children, to make sure they were doing well. I didn't have a nice connection with her, but I wasn't ruthless enough to let innocent children suffer because of their mother's poor decisions. So my parents and I would check on the kids on a regular basis. They were always complaining about Diana's mistreatment of them. She would chastise them for minor infractions and strike out at them simply for being children and trying to have fun. It was a dreadful existence for all of them, and I hoped I could help them by removing them from that place and keeping them with me, but I couldn't because she was the rightful parent and I had no legal authority over them. Furthermore, she received child support from her ex and was doing her best to make ends meet. I felt awful for her, but even worse for the kids. Diana started seeing other men, which made things considerably worse. Every time a relationship failed, she blamed her children. She was convinced that once her partners discovered she was a mother of 3, they would abandon their relationship with her. I believe it was because she never mentioned her children during the early stages of dating, only bringing it up after a month or 2, which appeared dishonest. I tried several times to explain this to her, but she was convinced that she was being rejected because she had children. She kept teasing them about it, reminding them of how their father had abandoned her and threatening to leave them as well if they didn't behave. The children were scared of her, and their childhood was defined by their mother's narcissism. This continued for years. Several times, I considered taking the kids and fleeing with them, but I couldn't. I could not petition for custody or denounce her because, while her actions were wrong, they did not justify taking the children away from her. So the scenario remained, and the kids were simply grateful to have me in their life. My parents were too elderly to be their pals, but I was always there for them when they needed it. They could never tell their mother about their issues, but they could always go to their aunt, which they did. Whenever they had problems with school, academics, or even Diana, they would come to me, and I appreciated their trust. It's no surprise that when they turned 18, they decided to leave their mother's house and move in with me instead. Now that they were no longer children, they could select where and with whom to live, and they chose me. Diana was clearly dissatisfied and had a lot to say. She stated she had squandered 18 years of her life raising these children, only for them to abandon her in the end. She was really unpleasant about it, telling me that if I had wanted to raise her children so badly, I should have stepped in sooner rather than taking over after the work was basically done. I wanted to tell her that she hadn't actually raised them. They had basically raised themselves because she was usually at work or out on dates with guys who eventually dumped her after discovering she had 3 children. She had no idea what her priorities should be, and it was clear why things turned out as they did. The children selected the person who had genuinely been there for them over the person who had always tortured and reprimanded them since she couldn't find anyone and was miserable in her life. It was evident that she had no idea she was harming them because she was suffering herself. However, I did not want to rub it in her face because I knew it must have been unpleasant for her, which is why she was lashing out at me. So I kept my mouth shut and that was it. After that, we didn't really communicate. Her children opted to leave her and live with me. Diana also chose to cut ties with all of us and cease speaking to anyone, including our parents. This was weird because they had done nothing to deserve it. I believe the fact that they hadn't chosen her side against me when my nieces and nephew opted to live with me irritated her, so she cut them off as well. It's been 7 years, and they're all doing well now. I don't know what Diana has been up to, but I know her children are doing well. My nephew attended medical school and is now a pediatrician. One of my nieces has a degree in literature and is now a teacher, and her twin sister has a hair shop. I assisted all of them in obtaining business loans and financed them to the best of my ability. I'm very proud of them because they've gone a long way from their previous home. They are now living apart. They only stayed with me for 4 years, and even then, it wasn't really like they were living with me because they were generally away at college and only came back on occasion. I believe they didn't want to return to Diana's home, where they didn't feel wanted. It's been 2 years since they all moved out, and I'm very thrilled for them. I never expected anything in return for what I did because I truly believed it was the right thing to do. They were just kids, and no matter how bad things were between me and my sister, I could never be callous to them. I've always had a soft spot for them, especially since I've never had kids or married. It wasn't my cup of tea, but for them, I wanted to be there as a parental figure because their father wasn't around, and, well, we all know who Diana was. They needed someone, and my parents were too old for the position, so I stepped forward. That is all I did. I never anticipated anything in return, but I am grateful that they are the type of children who think I deserve a gift of appreciation for what I done. Even though I don't believe it was something that required compensation, I appreciated their gesture. About a week ago, I celebrated my 48th birthday with my friends and family, including my nieces and nephew. I had a great time, and my nephew was kind enough to organize everything for me. Despite my desire to pay for everything, he insisted on covering the costs because he is now earning enough money to do things for me and display his appreciation. After the party, the 3 of them sat me down to talk. They told me that now that they were all financially established, they wanted to express their gratitude by collectively writing me a check. I tried to explain that it was unnecessary because I was still working and could support myself, but they insisted. They claimed it wasn't about repaying a debt. They could never repay me for what I had done for them since it wasn't about money. It was about the encouragement and faith I had provided them, which they could never fully repay. This was their humble attempt to show their appreciation. I was deeply moved by their genuine act and wanted to share it on social media. I just wanted to thank them for everything they were doing for me. My sister and I hadn't spoken in years, so I didn't think she would care. I was blocked on every platform, and I assumed she wouldn't see it, so I felt it was fine. Diana had never followed up with us or inquired about her children's well-being after they had left home. Granted, it was they who broke up with her first and moved in with me, but that was her fault. The least she could have done was show interest in their lives and try to be a mother figure to them in order to make one for her faults. But, to be honest, she didn't seem to care about the loss of communication, so I figured she was all right. Anyway, following that post, I received a reply from her a few days ago. I wasn't expecting it because, as I indicated, we hadn't spoken in 6 years. However, I should have predicted that as soon as she realized her children were financially secure, she would start sniffing around like a bloodhound, trying to figure out how much money she could obtain from them. In her reply, she stated that she had seen my post and wanted to talk about her children. She recognized that she had made mistakes in the past and had not been a good mother to kids, but she felt compelled to give herself another shot. She claimed she had missed them a lot over the previous 6 years. I'm not sure how much truth there is in that statement because if she truly missed them, she could have contacted me at least once. She asked me to speak with her children and help bridge the gap between them, as they respond well to me. The timing was strange, so I ignored her message. However, when I failed to react, she called me in the evening, and I snapped. She insisted that I assist her in reconnecting with her children, but I refused. I was quite aware that she was merely pursuing their money, not because she truly cared about their well-being. If she truly regretted what she had done, she would have contacted them directly rather than talking to me. She couldn't let go of her pride and ego for a single second. She still expected her children to contact her, despite the fact that she was the one who had made a mistake. It was amazing how entitled she was. She tried to dispute with me, arguing that she wasn't pursuing their money and that it was offensive for me to suggest so. I assured her that I was not implying anything. It was so obvious. I felt appalled and repulsed by what she was doing. She then accused me of stealing everything from her, claiming that I had already stolen her children and was now stealing her riches. I informed her that I didn't need the money and was originally hesitant to accept the check, but now I was going to take it all because she didn't deserve it. Now she's crying on social media, telling everyone what I said and attempting to make me seem bad. Some of my relatives say I went too far with what I said, that I'm greedy, and that I owe her an apology, which is absurd. That is why I am here to inquire if I'm in the wrong for telling my sister that she does not deserve the money that her children have decided to give me. Update. As some responses advised, I recounted the situation with my nephews and nieces. They informed me they had heard about it from a few of relatives and had considered speaking with me but had not had the time. However, after I called them over and discussed it with them, they informed me that they believed I did the correct thing. My nephew was open about his views, stating that he had never considered of his mother as a maternal figure throughout his life. He always blamed me because she had never been there for him, and my niece agreed. He'd always been the most outspoken of the group, so it was predictable that this was all coming from him. My nieces were too emotional to speak, but he was quite angry and upset. He explained that Diana only spoke to me since she had never done the basic minimum for them. This was despite the fact that she was receiving child support from their father, and even then, she would humiliate them and make them feel horrible for merely existing, which was not their fault. They believe I did the right thing and have informed me that they will not contact their mother, regardless of what happens. They also believe that I should stand up for myself and explain my side of the story online now that Diana has decided to speak negatively about me on social media. They believe that this is the most effective approach to convey the message, therefore that's what I'll do. I'm delighted they opted to take my side in this because my parents are staying out of it and have stated that they don't want to get involved. Diana never spoke to them after her children cut her off, which I find unusual. My parents' polite approach to this problem strikes me as unusual, given that they have not communicated with Diana in the last 6 years. I was disappointed, but at least my nieces and nephew support me. Now many people have asked me why I did not petition for custody and have the children taken away from Diana if I knew she was a bad mother and was mistreating them. I mentioned in my piece that, while her actions were wrong, they did not constitute torture, abuse or neglect. She was constantly harsh to them and wasn't emotionally present for her children. So while I could have filed for custody, it was quite improbable that I would have gotten the children into my care. Courts typically encourage families to keep together, and in this case, they had already lost their father. Their father had abandoned them, leaving them with only their mother as a biological parent. Naturally, the court would want the family to stay together. I knew that if I filed a petition against her or took legal action against Diana, she would ensure that I never saw them again. She would make certain that she took the kids far away from me. It was already improbable that I would have been able to take kids away from her and obtain full custody, so this would have put them in a dangerous situation. This is why I decided to play it safe by staying in touch with them and being available for them at all times. I'm not sure if it was the correct thing to do in the long term, but at the time, it seemed like the only option. Maybe there were other ways to deal with it, but it was all I could think of, so I did what I believed was right. It was difficult for me, and for years I debated whether I should file for custody or have kids taken away from her and rehomed, but there's no telling what might have occurred, and I figured it was better for kids to stay with their mother and maintain touch with me and my parents than risk anything in this circumstance. I hope this answers the questions most people had for me. Maybe I came across as the evil guy for what I did, but I don't care. I know the kids are doing well in their life, and I did everything I could to keep them happy and safe. I was always there for them, therefore I don't feel guilty about anything. Update 2. It's been a week since Diana's message and I've received a lot of phone calls today from family and people who have spoken with her. They were pointing out my mistakes and scolding me. It was getting really tiresome and I was swamped with work, which is why I hadn't been able to post sooner. But today, I decided I'd had enough. After a brief talk with my nephew and nieces, I decided to finally make a post that shared my side of the story as well as, in some ways, theirs. I don't think anyone in the family realized how much those kids had been through as children. How many taunts they had to endure every day simply because Diana opted to become pregnant early and drop everything for her boyfriend at the time. Even after that, she continued to blame others for her own actions and attempted to appear as if she was doing everything in her ability to do the best for her children. But, in actuality, she was never present for them. Since she was telling everyone that I had stolen her children from her and was now stealing a fortune from her, now that her children were doing well financially, I felt people deserved to know the truth, not just her twisted version of events in which she was the victim rather than the person who tormented everyone. They had already judged me for a variety of reasons since they only knew her side of the story and sympathized with her. But in reality, I deserved to share my side of the story, as did her children. So I typed everything up a few hours ago and published the post. So far, she hasn't said anything to me, and the only texts I've gotten are from relatives who were judging me earlier. They have now abruptly changed their tune and are attempting to apologize for judging me too soon. But frankly, it means nothing to me. I simply wanted them to know the truth. I don't care what they think of me, but it was vital for me to speak the truth and share how Diana handled her children, which is why they are no longer in contact with her. Anyway, now that everything is finished, I am ready to move on from this. Honestly, I don't want anything to do with Diana anymore, and I was perfectly content for the past 6 years when she didn't contact me. I believe the same may be stated for her children as well. I don't understand why she felt the need to create so much drama. If she wanted money, she might have asked for it rather than pretending to want another chance at motherhood. Update 3. It's been a day since I wrote that post. Diana may have woken up today and decided to get back at me. Instead of contacting me directly, she became increasingly dramatic and began commenting on that post, attempting to make it appear as if I was lying. But it was not going to work. Obviously, as soon as she attempted to react, her children began commenting and responding to her, reminding her of particular episodes from their childhood in which she had been cruel to them. That lasted about an hour, and I didn't feel awful about it. Nobody else did, because my nephew, nieces and I were all thoroughly enjoying the process. They were utterly humiliating her, and there was no way she could get out of it since every single lie she tried to say to make me look bad was discovered. I'm glad I chose to do this on the weekend. Otherwise, we might not have been able to respond as swiftly. Anyway, that lasted about an hour, and then she began deleting her comments so that no one could catch her in her falsehoods. However, it was too late because many others had already noticed what was going on in the comment section, and I believe she began to be called out for her actions by others. She started erasing her comments and backtracking on everything she said, and then she blocked me. She also blocked her children. I'm guessing it was her way of surrendering, and I'm pleased she did because she would have lost in a fight with us. We clearly have the upper hand here, morally or otherwise. I believed deleting the comments would be the end of our connection, but she chose to contact me personally as well. She messaged me, saying she hoped I was happy now that I had presented her as the monster and everyone hated her. It was very ironic coming from her, because that was exactly what she was attempting to do to me first. She initiated it, and now when I wanted to return it to her, she is unable to accept it. I don't understand why individuals attempt to dish it out when they know they can't take it in return. Just don't cause any drama if you don't want to be held accountable for the results. Anyway, I disregarded that message, and that's what we're all going to do for the rest of our lives because she's no longer worth our attention. She has proven it. After hearing my girlfriend talk about infidelity, I left without saying anything. She is looking for me, but I blocked her everywhere. My girlfriend, who is 36 years old and with whom I have been in a relationship for 5 years, has cheated on me without my knowledge. I am a 38-year-old man who just recently discovered this information. I discovered it in the most unfortunate way imaginable. Let me begin by providing some background information about myself. I have never been married and I do not have any children. It's not that I don't want it either. I guess life just hasn't presented me with those opportunities yet. Okay, let's get to the story. The men and I were going to take a weekend trip to one of my friend's cabins on the lake, so I left work on Friday after work to go on the trip. There is nothing overly insane about it. Fishing, drinking games, and just plain old fun. The majority of the time, we take these excursions approximately once every 3 months in order to offer our significant others a break from us and to allow ourselves some time to ourselves. In a typical scenario, I remain for the entirety of the weekend and then depart from there in order to report to work on Monday morning. My laptop, on the other hand, was left in the office room during the weekend, and I failed to remember to retrieve it. I started making my way home at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with the expectation that I would arrive there by 6 o'clock. Since I was under the impression that Rachel, we'll refer to her as Rachel, wouldn't have eaten by that point, I placed a phone order at our go-to Italian restaurant, waited for it to be delivered, and then went back to the house. As soon as I went in, everything appeared to be in order. Rachel was laughing in the kitchen and I could hear her laughing, so I decided to simply walk in and surprise her on the spot. I was getting closer, And as I did, I began to overhear the conversation that she was having on the phone. In a moment, my world was completely turned upside down. I had the impression that she was speaking to her sister or possibly one of her friends, but the conversation was rather straightforward and proceeded as follows. It was an incredible evening last night. What a thoughtful and considerate lover he was. Take a break. I'm telling you, I've never had anything like it. Take a break. After meeting on Tinder, he took me out for dinner the other night. We were so close to making it to the sofa that we barely made it by the time we made it through the door. Take a break. Oh God, big, like twice as big as insert my name. Take a break. I'll definitely be taking him for a test drive again. Following the completion of that line, I simply threw the meal on the ground. It was Rachel who turned around after hearing it. I was already experiencing tears welling up in my eyes by that point in time. I simply pushed her off, went up to the office, got my laptop and then left. She hung up the phone and attempted to get in touch with me, but I was no longer available. I have not returned a single call from Rachel for the past 4 days, despite the fact that she has been texting and calling me in an extremely frantic manner. Because I am sleeping at a motel located a couple of towns away, it is quite unlikely that she will be able to locate me. Rachel has been frantically attempting to find me, and that has caused my friends and my mother to phone me. However, I have reassured everyone that I am well and that there is no reason for them to be concerned about me. The idiotic phone call that I received has completely destroyed my life. I was under the impression that this lovely young lady was the one with whom I would spend the rest of my life. I am an only child, but my mother is always reminding me that she would want to have grandchildren. Due to the fact that this year would be our 6th wedding anniversary, I had intended to make my proposal on July 4th of this year. I already have the ring, and my friend and his wife are already aware of the idea because they were the ones who organized and hosted the 4th of July cookouts. I would like to thank them for their assistance. In this regard, I would be grateful for any advice you might provide. It is the first time that I have ever dealt with infidelity in any relationship, and at this point I am completely and utterly emotionally destroyed. Could I get in touch with Rachel? Is it advisable for me to listen to her after that phone call? When I think of her, I can't help but feel queasy in my stomach. I want to express my gratitude in advance to anyone who contacts me with comments. Update 1. Good morning everyone. To begin, I would want to express my gratitude to everyone for their sincere comments. I have had a very stressful week, and although I did not feel like responding to anyone's posts, I want you all to know that I did read them, and your words helped me get through the week. I am looking forward to hearing from you all. This has been a terrible experience for me. And the fact that each and every one of you reached out to me through chat or left a comment has made my day a little bit brighter. With that being said, the most current update is presented below. In the evening of the previous Friday, after my friends had arrived at the hotel, I shared with them what I had listened to on the phone call. They were, to put it mildly, all 3 of them in a state of shock. They inquired as to whether or not I had observed any indications of this, and to tell you the truth, I had not. The answer I gave them was that I had no idea what I was going to do. I let my one friend know that the proposal was not going to go through, and he perfectly understood the situation given the existing circumstances. It was one of the things that I instructed my friends to do before they left their homes, and that was to turn off tracking in the event that their significant partners were checking on them and returning to Rachel. While I am aware that Rachel has a close relationship with one of the wives, I did not want to take any chances at this point in time. That evening, we spent the evening at the hotel bar, and I took a lot of shots, shot after shot, shot after shot. I was quite exhausted. It was no nice sight. From the beginning of the night to the end of the night, my friends' significant others were calling them and wondering where they were. It is to their credit that they did not back down and supported me by simply stating that we were safe and that there was no need to be concerned. After presuming where they were, one of them approached me with a request to speak with me, but I declined to engage in conversation with her. Rachel was concerned, and all she wanted was for me to return home. She insisted over and over again. Just now, I told my friend to take care of it, and I promised that I would fill them in at a later time. As well as a handful of girls who were traveling for work, I spent the most of the night hitting on the bartender, which is something I am not proud of my behavior toward. I thanked each of them for spending time with me the following day, and then they left to go back to their own homes. Because he gets to work after Rachel and I would have already left for the day, I asked one of my friends to have a look at the house that we were renting this week. He was on his way to work, and she and I would have already left for the day. The previous 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, were off for Rachel, but she returned to work on Wednesday. I hurried to the house as soon as he disclosed this information to me, and I immediately began packing as many of my belongings as I could. Dishes were piled up in the sink, Clothes were strewn about the house, and the garbage can was stuffed with food that had been ordered and taken out. Getting all of my belongings out of the house took me approximately 3.5 hours. Just as a parting gesture, I cleaned up for Rachel before I left. After Rachel became aware that I had returned home and retrieved all of my possessions, she began to bombard me with phone calls and text messages throughout the afternoon and evening of that day. For the time being, I am residing at my mother's house until I am able to get a place of my own sometime in the fall. After speaking with the landlord, I learned that he will not be able to remove me from the lease unless Rachel's signature is provided. This means that I will be responsible for paying my share until October. Until then, my mother has indicated that I am welcome to stay with her. After that, I will make an effort to locate a new residence. As far as I'm aware, a 38-year-old man moving back home with his mother is an incredible experience that life has handed me. Thursday was the day that I finally got in touch with Rachel, and I informed her that we could get together at a neighborhood bar and grill downtown on Friday evening. I assured her that one of my close friends would be present to keep an eye on everything and make sure that everything was in order. She moaned for a few minutes, stating that she wanted me to come home and talk to her so that we could move on from this situation. However, I told her that if she wanted to see me, this was going to be the way that it was going to end up. In the end, she gave her consent. By the time my friend and I arrived at the location on Friday evening, Rachel had already arrived for almost 1 hour. To calm myself down, I had already consumed some food and had also taken a couple of shots of Ciroc. As we sat down, she expressed an interest in engaging in idle chatter, inquiring about me and blah blah blah. I removed that piece of junk. I indicated to her that I had a list of inquiries. Almost instantly, her eyes began to flood up. My question to her was, "How long has this been going on?" "This is the first and only time," she pledged to herself. I told her to stop talking like that. Since I stated that there was no possibility of us ever getting back together, I would appreciate it if you could simply give me the truth so that I can put this matter to rest and move on with my life. She remained steadfast in her account for a few minutes, but then, as the majority of you had anticipated, she admitted the truth. For the past 2 years, whenever I went on such vacations, she was under the impression that I was going to cheat on her. So she was also having a good time. I was fired up by this. I informed her that she was merely using this as a fucking excuse to sleep around with other people. After that, I inquired about the person she was speaking with on the phone, but she declined to provide me with an answer. Asked if they used condoms, she responded that they did so occasionally. Because I am clean, she does not need to worry about obtaining an STD test unless her most recent fling did not use one. I told her that she is fortunate that I took an STD test because I am still clean. In the end, before I departed, I informed her about my intentions for the proposal that would take place on July 4th. I showed her the ring and informed her that I was going to propose to her at the party hosting our mutual friend because that was the event where they had introduced us to one another. Approximately at this time, she suddenly began crying for no apparent reason. She pleaded for just one more opportunity. I informed her that I will love her at all times, but that our relationship is finished. Even though she has been messaging me throughout the day, I am going to block her from this platform very soon. At this very moment I am only sitting here, consuming some Buffalo Wild Wings and sipping beer while watching the fights. I have my doubts, but I'm hoping that Poirier comes out on top. It's a train wreck that is my life. In any case, I want to thank you all for listening. It is highly unlikely that I will ever have another conversation with that expletive, thus I am not sure if I will update again. Comments. C. Falcon, 663. I knew she'd say it was just once. They usually do this, dummies. Also, the statement, every time I went on those excursions for the past 2 years, she assumed I was going to cheat on her, so she was having fun too. Blame shifting is a common cheater technique. It is your fault, OP. I do not think so. I am sorry your landlord did not allow you out of your lease, but at least you have your mother. It isn't ideal, but it is only temporary. It was entirely her loss. Unfortunately, she was going to marry someone. A nice man had chosen and desired her, and she had thrown it all away for pleasure. It's time to focus on yourself and your healing. Take it easy on the drinks, be careful. You are going to be fine. Fly Gusk. OP, I'm pleased you're clean, but it's unfortunate that she was such a POS and used that as an excuse to believe you were going to cheat on her during those travels. It's also unfortunate that she didn't want to identify who she was speaking with, but I'm guessing it was someone in your tight circle of friends, probably one of your mate's spouses. She probably didn't want to be identified because it could get her in trouble. You may wish to warn your friends about these possibilities. Now, in terms of her reaction and actions at the meal, she exhibited no remorse and even attempted to trickle the truth to you. If she was truly sorry for what she had done, she would have broken down before the ring reveal. She only seemed to realize her mistake when you showed her the ring and discussed the proposal. It's time to leave the alcohol behind and begin your healing path. I hope everything goes well, and if you find out who was on the other end of that call, please keep us updated. Update 2. Dear fellow Redditors, how are you doing? I would want to express my gratitude to each of you for the kind remarks. They have meant a great deal to me. During the past day, a few events have transpired, and I thought it would be best to fill you in on them. In spite of the fact that it is not particularly exciting, here it is. I am free and clear, and there is no need for me to worry about any confrontation with Rachel because she is no longer invited to the cookout that will be held on the 4th of July occasion. While I was at the bar, one of the spouses was attempting to strike up a conversation with me, as you may recall from my previous story. In the 4th of July barbecue, she is the wife who is in charge of hosting. It would appear that Rachel had explained to her that she had only cheated on her partner once, and that it was a grave error on her part. This is the reason why she was attempting to convince me to share my thoughts with her. On Tuesday, I had a conversation with her, and during that conversation, I told her the complete truth. Almost immediately, she called Rachel, who informed me that my account of the events was accurate and was furious. As she began to rage at her, she informed her that it would be better if she did not show up to the event that was going to take place on the 4th of July because I was going to be there, and to tell you the truth, what she did to me was horrible and revolting. After that, she requested me to pardon her and stated that she was unaware of the situation. My explanation was that it was not her fault, and that she had no grounds for requesting forgiveness for what she had done. A person who was important to both of us was the one who deceived us. When it comes to the question of who was on the phone with her, I can only speculate that it was her sister. The two wives who are friends with her have maintained their steadfastness and insisted that they were unaware that Rachel was engaging in this behavior. It would appear that on Saturday evenings, when we were away, they would have a girls' night in my place until approximately 11 o'clock at night, during which time they would drink wine and speak about things that are typical of girls. A confirmation of this was provided by the individual who is not even close friends with her but participated in these activities. Another factor that leads me to believe that it was her sister is the fact that I have tried to get in touch with her 3 times already, but I have not received any response from her by way of a text message, a phone call, or anything else. My mother has contacted me and expressed her disappointment in the split. She also inquired as to whether there is anything they can do to convince me to change my decision, but I have informed her that this is not going to happen. As a result of the fact that I returned to work on Monday after taking the previous week off, I am now back to my regular schedule. Going forward, I will not consume any more alcohol. My liver will be grateful to me for that. This community has been of great assistance to me, and I would like to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for everything that you have done. Considering that it appears that this is the conclusion of the matter, I am unsure whether or not I will update this account again. It is important to note that Rachel has been blocked on all platforms, which means that she is currently unable to communicate with me. The person who was hosting the cookout informed me that she is not feeling well at the moment, and she did so before I explained what had actually occurred. The fact of the matter is, however, that I am not doing very well either, but I am moving on and putting all of this behind me. Once again, many thanks to the community. You guys are incredible. My wife cheated while I grieved my brother's death, blamed me. Then years later, at a wedding, she tried to reconcile, but my new life shocked her. I, 32M, had been with my wife, Teresa, 30F, for 8 years and married for 4. We met at a party hosted by a mutual friend during our sophomore year in college. I was immediately taken to her confident personality and sharp wit. Teresa was studying business, while I was studying engineering. We bonded over our mutual enjoyment of outdoor activities and sampling new foods. Our first date was a disaster. I lost my money and spilled wine on her dress, but Teresa shrugged it off, and we wound up spending hours roaming around campus and talking. I realized she was exceptional right away. Teresa's drive and ambition struck me as our relationship progressed. She hailed from a working-class family and was driven to pursue a good career. I loved how she managed her academics, a part-time job, and internships. Teresa pushed me out of my comfort zone by encouraging me to apply for competitive internships and leadership positions in student organizations. After graduation, we both found nice employment in the city, Teresa with a lighting company, and I at an engineering firm. We moved in together after a year and got engaged soon after. Our wedding was a modest, intimate gathering of close friends and family. Teresa was lovely in her plain white outfit, and I recall feeling like the luckiest man alive. Our first couple years of marriage were great. We both advanced in our careers, which enabled us to travel and enjoy life in the city. We had a wonderful group of friends and frequently hosted dinner parties or game nights at our home. Teresa and I spoke effectively and rarely fought. When we disagreed, we always tried to listen to each other and find a solution. Teresa's independence was one of my favorite aspects of her personality. We both cherished our personal time and hobbies. Teresa enjoyed yoga and painting, while I enjoyed basketball and tinkering with vintage cars. We supported each other's interests and struck a healthy balance between couple and individual activities. Everything changed when Mason, my older brother, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Mason and I had always been quite close. He was not only my brother, he was also my best friend, confidant, and role model. Mason was always there for me growing up. He taught me how to ride a bike, assisted me with my homework, and offered advice on everything from school to relationships. When our parents divorced during my adolescence, Mason became my rock. He was attending college at the time, but he called me every day to check in. He even came home on weekends to see whether I was all right. Mason was the one who encouraged me to apply to college and assisted me with moving into my dorm. At my wedding, his best man speech moved everyone to tears. Happy tears, naturally. Mason's diagnosis hit me like a truck. He had always been the picture of health. He ran marathons, ate properly, and never smoked. It appeared so unjust. I recall sitting in the doctor's office with him and his wife Sarah, feeling as if the world was collapsing on us. Since then, I've spent as much time as possible with Mason. I drove him to his chemotherapy appointments, stayed with him in the hospital, and attempted to lift his spirits. Teresa was initially helpful, accompanying me on visits to Mason and assisting Sarah with food and chores. But as the weeks grew into months, Teresa began to protest. She claimed I was spending too much time with Mason and neglected our relationship. I tried to explain how vital it was for me to be there for my brother, but Teresa appeared to resent the time I was away from her. We began bickering more frequently, generally over my schedule or her feeling neglected. I tried to balance time with Mason and Teresa, but it was really difficult. Mason's condition was fast deteriorating, and I wanted to be as present for him as possible. At the same time, I felt awful about not giving Teresa the attention she craved. It was a no-win scenario. Despite rigorous therapy, Mason died 8 months after being diagnosed. I was absolutely devastated. Mason had been such a constant in my life that I couldn't imagine the world without him. The loss devastated me, and I sank into a profound despair. I took a leave of absence from work and spent the majority of my time at home. Some days, I could hardly get out of bed. Everything reminded me of Mason, TV shows we used to watch together, private jokes we shared, and even particular foods he enjoyed. The grief was intense. Teresa attempted to be helpful at first, but her patience ran out quickly. She kept trying to persuade me to get over it and resume our normal social life. She planned events and invited friends over, but I couldn't bring myself to socialize. Teresa seemed to take it personally and accused me of pushing her away. This carried on for around 3 months. I knew Teresa was having a difficult time, but I was doing my best to cope with this enormous loss. I was attending a bereavement counselor and attempting to process my emotions, but healing takes time. Teresa grew increasingly distant and unpleasant. Then one day, I received a call from Liam, Mason's best buddy since boyhood. Liam had been like another brother to me growing up, and he'd been a huge help after Mason's death. However, this call was different. Liam's voice was uncertain when he informed me he saw Teresa at a motel with another man. I did not want to believe it at first. I absolutely believed Teresa and couldn't picture her cheating, but Liam emailed me a photo he had taken, and there was no disputing it. Teresa was in a passionate embrace with a man I didn't recognize, and they were going to enter a hotel room. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could Teresa do this to me, especially because I was grieving for my brother? I sat in stunned silence for hours, staring at the snapshot and attempting to make sense of it. When Teresa arrived home that evening, I confronted her. I showed her the photograph and asked for an explanation. She initially denied it, claiming that it was not what it appeared to be. But when I questioned her, she broke down in tears and admitted to having an affair with a coworker for the past 2 months. Teresa's excuses made me feel awful. She claimed she felt lonely and ignored when I was grieving. She complained that I was not providing her needs and that she deserved happiness. She even had the arrogance to claim that I had pushed her to cheat by being emotionally unavailable. I was infuriated and heartbroken. I told Teresa to leave and that I wanted a divorce. She asked me to rethink and give her another opportunity. She screamed and pleaded, claiming it was a mistake and that she still loved me, but I knew I could never trust her again after this betrayal. The next day, Teresa called and texted me nonstop, attempting to explain herself. She claimed I was being harsh and exaggerating. She claimed that I had emotionally abandoned her by initially spending so much time with Mason and then withdrawing when grieving. She tried to blame me for encouraging her to cheat. I'm at a total loss. How could the lady I loved and trusted for 8 years do this to me? Especially when I was grieving for my brother. And now she's attempting to blame me. Is it abnormal for me to refuse to even consider reconciliation? I feel like my entire universe has been broken. I keep revisiting our relationship in my head, wondering if there were any indicators I missed. Was Teresa always so selfish, and I just didn't notice, or did Mason's illness and death transform her? I'm doubting everything now. Part of me is upset with myself for not anticipating this. Perhaps if I had worked harder to balance my time between Mason and Teresa, this would not have occurred. But then I remember that a loving partner would have understood and supported me through such a difficult time. I haven't informed many people about Teresa's affair yet. I'm humiliated and don't want to deal with everyone's responses, but I know I'll need help moving forward, especially if I go through with the divorce. I am not sure what to do next. The prospect of going through a divorce while still grieving Mason is daunting, but I also can't imagine remaining with someone who could betray me like this. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for your encouraging words and advice. To clarify a few points, Teresa knew Mason and I were close. She'd met him several times and appeared to like him. She was in the hospital with me when he died. During my grief, I never entirely shut Teresa out. We continued to live together, have meals together and so on. I was just not in the mood to go out or be personal. Before confronting Teresa, I performed some research and discovered that the affair had been going on for 4 months, not 2 as she stated. So it began shortly after Mason died. Teresa and I had no major relationship troubles prior to this. We had regular disputes, but nothing significant. She never expressed feeling ignored until Mason became ill. I appreciate everyone's feedback as I absorb this betrayal. I'll give an update whenever I have more information. Update 1. It's been around 2 months since my original post. A lot has transpired, therefore I'd like to provide an update. I filed for divorce soon after learning Teresa's adultery. It was not an easy decision, but I knew I could never trust her again after what she had done. Teresa's reaction to the divorce petition was a mix of outrage and desperate pleas. She kept calling and messaging me, alternately offering emotional apologies and accusing rants. Teresa showed up unannounced at my office. She made a scene in the lobby, crying and imploring me to give her another chance. My coworkers were uncomfortable, and I was mortified. I had to have security escort her out. After that episode, I banned her phone number for my own sanity. Teresa left our house and moved in with her folks. I've been staying in the house, but it feels empty and filled with sad memories. I'm thinking about selling it and finding a new location, but the prospect of going through another major life upheaval is daunting. I learned from common friends that Teresa was telling everyone that I had mentally abused her by abandoning her emotionally. She stated that I had refused to speak or work on our marriage, forcing her to seek consolation elsewhere. It was infuriating to hear these lies circulated about me. Some of our friends have chosen sides in the divorce. The majority have been supportive of me, although a handful believe Teresa's version of events. I've lost a handful of friendships as a result of this, which hurts even more than everything else. I'm trying to concentrate on the folks who have supported me. The divorce process has been messy. Teresa is claiming that she is entitled to half of everything, including Mason's inheritance. My lawyer assures me that she has no legal claim to it, yet she is delaying the process regardless. It feels like a slap in the face that she would attempt to benefit from my brother's death after betraying me. In the aftermath of everything, I've been dealing with a lot of despair and trust issues. Some days, it's difficult to get out of bed. I lost weight since I rarely eat. My performance at work has diminished, but happily, my supervisor has remained understanding. One positive development. I reunited with an old high school classmate, Olivia. We ran into each other at a coffee shop and started conversing. Olivia lost her mother to cancer a few years ago, so she understood exactly what I was going through with Mason. We've been hanging out as friends, and it's great to have someone who gets it. Olivia and I have a lot in common, something I had forgotten about. We were both on the debate team in high school and enjoy watching old movies. She has been introducing me to new music and podcasts, which has provided a wonderful distraction. Olivia doesn't force me to talk about Teresa or the divorce, but she is an excellent listener when I need to vent. Teresa flipped out when she discovered I was spending time with Olivia. She arrived at my house unexpectedly, yelling that I was a hypocrite for moving on so soon while vilifying her. She accused me of having an affair with Olivia, which is completely false. I had to threaten to call the cops before she left. The situation has been a nightmare, but I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm working on healing and discovering who I am outside of my connection with Teresa. I appreciate my family and friends' support during this trying time. I've been attempting to honor Mason's memory in constructive ways. I donated to the cancer facility where he was treated and have been volunteering whenever I can. Mason's wife, Sarah, and their children have been an excellent source of support. We have dinner together frequently, and it's helpful to talk about Mason with others who care about him as much as I do. There are still times when I miss Teresa and the life we shared, but then I remember her betrayal and how she has acted after I discovered the truth. It helps to emphasize that I'm making the correct decision by terminating the marriage. I'm not ready to consider dating again. The idea of putting myself out there and risking another heartbreak is daunting. For the time being, my primary emphasis is on reconstructing my life and recuperating from everything that has occurred. I will provide another update after the divorce is official. Thank you again to everyone who has expressed kindness and advice. It truly helps to know that I'm not alone in this. Update 2. It has been around 6 months since my last update. I was relieved when the divorce was finally finalized last week. Teresa fought me every step of the way, attempting to prolong the process and collect more money. In the end, we split our joint assets 50-50ths, and she did not receive any of my Mason inheritance. Teresa returned to my office the day after her divorce became final. She was crying and begging me to reconsider, claiming she had made a terrible mistake but still loved me. I politely but firmly informed her that it was finished and requested her to leave. She refused, raising a commotion, and security had to remove her out. It was humiliating, so I took the rest of the day off work. My employer summoned me to his office the next day. I was concerned that he would be disturbed by the disruption, but he was actually very understanding. He mentioned that he had a messy divorce years ago and offered me some time off if I needed it. I was appreciative for his help and understanding. On a good note, Olivia has been doing well. What began as a friendship has gradually grown into something more. We've been officially dating for approximately 2 months now. Olivia is compassionate, sympathetic, and patient with me while I work through my trust difficulties. She encourages me to talk about Mason and never makes me feel awful for continuing to grieve. Olivia and I have been taking it slowly, which I love. We enjoy cooking together, taking long walks, and binge-watching TV shows. She's been assisting me in rediscovering old hobbies that I had abandoned throughout my marriage, such as playing guitar and photography. I've also focused on myself. I joined a gym, began learning guitar, and have traveled extensively. It is fantastic to rediscover who I am as a person. I went on a solo excursion to the mountains, which I had always wanted to do but Teresa was not interested in. It was pleasant to be alone with my thoughts and environment. Teresa continues to disparage me to anyone who will listen. She has told common acquaintances that I'm cold and unfeeling, that I never truly loved her, and that Olivia and I must have had an affair prior to our divorce. It's frustrating, but I'm trying not to get involved in her drama. I have begun spending more time with Mason's family. His children are growing up so quickly, and it's bittersweet to watch them hit milestones that Mason isn't present for. We've developed a ritual of having Sunday dinners together, telling tales about Mason and keeping his memory alive. Mason would have celebrated his birthday last month. It was a difficult day, but Olivia recommended we do something to honor Dad. We ended up organizing a modest charity race in Mason's honor, with funds benefiting cancer research. It felt amazing to turn my grief into something positive. Overall, I'm a lot better off than I was a year ago. I still miss Mason deeply, but the pain is not as intense. I am cautiously optimistic about my future with Olivia, and I'm pleased of myself for holding firm and not allowing Teresa to mislead me into reconciling. There are still difficult days, of course. Sometimes I wake up angry at Teresa for abandoning our marriage. Other times, I miss the future we envisioned together. But I'm learning to sit with these emotions without allowing them to overwhelm me. Thank you again to everyone in our community for their support. It helped me get through some difficult times. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm feeling optimistic for the first time in a long time. Update 3. It's been almost a year since my previous update. Life has returned to normal, and I'd want to express my last opinions on the matter. Olivia and I are still together and going strong. We just moved in together and adopted a dog. She's been a tremendous help through everything. I still have moments of insecurity and doubt, but Olivia is always kind and supportive. Our relationship isn't perfect, we've had our share of arguments and challenges, but we always try to talk freely and work through problems together. It's wonderful to be around someone who values honesty and mutual respect. I met Teresa at a mutual friend's wedding a few months ago. It was awkward, but we managed to remain cordial. She apologized again for her behavior during our divorce and stated that she was in therapy, working on herself. I wished her well but made it obvious that I was not interested in rekindling any kind of relationship, including friendship. Seeing Teresa evoked a variety of feelings. Part of me was outraged again, remembering her betrayal and the suffering she caused, but I also felt a sense of closure. Talking to her made me realize how much I'd grown and healed in the last few years. The pain over Mason is coming in waves now. Some days are more difficult than others, particularly around his birthday and the anniversary of his death, but I've discovered healthy methods to cope and celebrate his memory. I volunteer at the hospital where he was treated and have grown close to his wife and children. Mason's oldest son at 14, has been struggling lately. He's been acting out at school and is dealing with rage issues. I've been spending more time with him, taking him to basketball games and simply being there to talk. It feels amazing to be there for him in the same way Mason has always been for me. Olivia and I have discussed our future together. We are not in a rush to marry, but we both see this as a long-term relationship. We've spoken about having kids eventually, something I never imagined I'd desire after what happened with Teresa. It's hard to think of opening my heart again, but Olivia makes me feel protected. Work is going great. I was promoted a few months ago, which has been both exhilarating and challenging. The new work requires more travel, which has been difficult for Olivia and me, but we're figuring out how to balance our time together with our respective activities. I'm attempting to reconnect with past hobbies and interests. I joined a local amateur baseball league, which I enjoyed in college but gave up when life became busy. It's been exciting to get back on the field and meet new people. Olivia attends my sports whenever she can, cheering me on from the stands. Looking back, I see how toxic my relationship with Teresa had been, even before the adultery. We had grown apart, but we were both afraid to accept it. While I will never excuse her affair, I have accepted what happened and am looking ahead. There are still instances when I think, what if? What if Mason didn't get sick? What if I had noticed Teresa moving away sooner? What if I'd done things differently? But I am learning to let go of such thoughts and concentrate on the present. I am not the same person I was when I wrote the first post 2 years ago. The anguish and betrayal transformed me, but not all of the changes were negative. I've learned a lot about myself, resilience, and what I truly want from a spouse and in life. To anyone going through a similar situation, it does get better. Take the time to heal, surround yourself with supporting friends, and don't be scared to start afresh. You deserve happiness and someone who actually appreciates you. This will be my final update on this storyline. Thank you again for your kindness and encouragement over the last few years. It made a huge impact during the worst periods. I am looking forward to the future, whatever it may hold.